Chapter 6:21. Yi Qinghan looked at the 5 primal chaos heavenly lotus seeds that the 3 experts took out. They were filled with the profoundness of chaos. Although it was unknown how many eras had passed, they still retained a majestic vitality. As long as they were carefully nurtured, they could still reappear in the world. Yi Qinghan understood that the Supreme Treasure Auction House had something against him. It was impossible for them to be traded internally. If they were to be sold at the auction house, it would be very difficult to buy them. Mansion Master Long, can you buy this item through an internal transaction? Yi Qinghan stared at Western Garrison Liege Lord and asked via voice transmission. Moreover, these chaos heavenly lotus seeds have existed since the beginning of the world. There isn't much vitality left, and the profound laws aren't very clear. Although there are 5 of them, the chances of comprehending the profound mysteries of primal chaos from them are less than 10%. Spending 500,000 high-grade spirit crystals is really unwise. It's better to auction them directly. Who knows, you might not even need 300,000, reminded Western Garrison Liege Lord. 500,000 high-grade spirit crystals. Yi Qinghan frowned. 500,000 high-grade spirit crystals were equivalent to 50 million mid-grade spirit crystals and 5 billion low-grade spirit crystals. The key was that others had high-grade spirit crystals, so it was impossible for them to exchange for mid-grade spirit crystals, let alone low-grade spirit crystals. Even the crazy mansion couldn't take out 500,000 high-grade spirit crystals. Helpless, he could only give up on the internal transaction. The price of the primal chaos heavenly lotus seed was 250,000 high-grade spirit crystals. This price was already the last transaction price of the primal chaos heavenly lotus seed. He might not be able to buy it at such a high price, so he could only wait. After a simple meal, Yi Qinghan no longer paid attention to the treasures that were continuously sent over. However, the divine bird was envious. Its eyes flickered with a thieving light. It wanted to steal the treasures it had set its eyes on, but it was suppressed by Yi Qinghan. That night, a black-clothed man appeared outside the Western Garrison Liege Lord's residence. His entire body was as black as ink, and his bamboo hat covered his upper body. He held a long rod in his hand. Even the rod was black in color. It was completely compatible with the night. Go and report that I'm looking for Yi Qinghan. The black-clothed man's voice was hoarse, and there was an indescribable vicissitude in it. The guard at the gate frowned and was about to reprimand the intruder when the man in black's cold eyes pierced through the bamboo hat and pierced into the guard's eyes. The few low-level god priests were so scared that their legs almost turned to jelly. One of them turned around and ran toward the backyard. Yi Qinghan was in the middle of training in the profound mysteries of the 5 elements, striving to train the other 4 elemental essences to the god level as well, adjusting the harmony of the 5 elements. Upon hearing that a black-clothed man was looking for him, he hurriedly ran out of the manor. Seeing the black-clothed man's vigorous figure, he knew that this man was Cyro. "I've been waiting for a long time. Please come in." Yi Qinghan cherished talent. Someone who could reach 8th place on the wind cloud list was definitely a terrifying existence. Someone who had managed to escape the pursuit of God's organization all by himself was not surprising at all. Silo stared fixedly at Yi Qinghan for a long time before stepping into the Western Garrison Liege Lord's residence. Long Shui discovered the 2 of them and went forward to stop them, but she was stopped by the divine bird. "Little brat, come and talk to this divine bird about life's ideals. I can give you what you want. Are you interested?" The divine bird grinned. Yi Qinghan did not want to be delayed by Long Shui, so he left the divine bird behind and let it fool Long Shui. "Don't hurt her. The rest is up to you," Yi Qinghan said before leading Silo to the guest room area. In the guest room area, in the Dragon Residence Hall, the 2 of them sat across from each other. "I can help you, and I can even fight to the death for you. But if I'm lucky enough to survive, I need the crazy manner to guarantee my safety and quietly transfer me out of here. Silo went straight to the point. In order to take revenge, he did not care about the reward. As long as he could kill a member of God's organization, it would be fine. Good. I can promise you that even if all the mansion masters of the entire mythological plane and the 3 elders of God's organization personally come, they will not be able to kill you. Yi Qinghan was extremely confident. With the 9 remoteness master around, he was not afraid of the superior god's priest at all. Siro took off his bamboo hat. There was actually a scar across his handsome face. It was a ghastly sight. If this scar was removed, Siro would definitely be a rare handsome man. However, at this moment, he was actually so frightening. He looked like a young man in his 20s, but he seemed to have experienced the vicissitudes of time and space for millions of years. Yi Qinghan did not say much. He could feel the ruthlessness and hatred in Silo's heart. God's organization had massacred a large clan, so how could he not hate them? In order to collect the bloodline of the ancient giant god, God's organization massacred my clan and drained their blood essence in front of me. You know this hatred. I don't want to give up my life for a moment of happiness. If you can't guarantee my life after the battle, then don't agree. Silo warned in a hoarse voice. Yi Qinghan clenched his fists, and his mind spun quickly. God's organization was collecting the bloodline of the ancient giant god, so it was not that simple. It was very likely that they were studying the ancient giant god and wanted to restore the glory of the ancient giant god era. Yi Qinghan said in a deep voice, I understand. If fellow Taoist helps me, I can guarantee with my life that as long as you are in the crazy mansion, no one will be able to kill you. I also have the ability to send you out of the control of God's organization. What guarantee do you have? You even had to run around everywhere to seek help for the competition. How can I trust you? Silo asked, wanting to feel at ease. Yi Qinghan smiled proudly and said confidently, because I have an existence behind me that even the god lords do not dare to offend. Because I am Yi Qinghan. I dare to fight against God's organization, so I am not afraid of them. All right, I am only a member of Azura. I have no interest in the help they seek. I hope you understand, Silo said in a serious tone. Yi Qinghan nodded. If Silo agreed to help, the crazy mansion's chances of winning would greatly increase. There was no need to send the weaker members of the inner sect to die. The inner sect members had accompanied him through countless difficult times, and he did not want to leave anyone behind. Don't tell anyone about my identity. Until now, I have only trusted one person, and that is the crazy god Saber Monarch. Now there is one more person, Silo said in a low voice. Yi Qinghan nodded and pushed a jade slip in front of Silo. He said indifferently, This is called the Great Nirvana Sword Art. This is only the first form. If you like it, you can cultivate it. After the competition is over, I will send the other 2 forms to you. There is less than half a year before the big battle. During this time, you can stay here. I will return to the crazy mansion after the auction is over next month. Silo nodded and held the jade slip. He had lost most of his clan's secret techniques and did not dare to reveal his identity. Most of the secret techniques he cultivated were not strong. If Yi Qinghan could take out a secret technique, it would definitely be of a high level. It was impossible for him not to want it. However, what he wanted the most was not the Great Nirvana Sword Art. I heard that you have a 12th grade fire source. Can you give me some? My ancestor is the Chaos Fire Master God. I have the inheritance of the Master God, but I do not have a fire source. If I have a 12th grade fire source, I can awaken the Master God's bloodline in my body. Silo stared at Yi Qinghan and asked in a hoarse voice. Chapter 622. The competition between the medium god Temple and Emperor Yi became more and more brutal, but the endless plains returned to peace. This was because the heavenly Tao had once communicated with the Emperor Yi and benefited her. Now, she had grown so much that she actually had the ability to reach the God Temple realm. The elites of the past, the existences of the same era as Yi Qinghan, either entered the middle plane and disappeared or hid in the endless plains. Now, they appeared in such a high-profile manner. There were actually people who had broken through to the God Temple realm, and Yi Feng was one of them. However, after reaching the God Temple realm, he sensed Emperor Shang. The old man who had once worked so hard for the endless plains was now traveling in the wilderness, constantly searching for something. The numerous calamities back then had destroyed many traces of time, so it was not easy to find a broken sword. Now, the great Tao and space of the endless plains were abnormally stable. It was not something that could be torn apart by the God Temple realm. Even the God Temple realm could not cover the entire wilderness with their divine sense. The stars were growing and expanding, and the entire wilderness was also changing. The traces of time outlined the tragic events back then. The god-slaying ancestors' only emperor weapon left behind, the emperor's sword. Now, it seemed that there were countless great emperors in the world, and divine weapons were also slowly appearing. However, some glory could not be replaced by the God Temple realm. The achievements left behind by the god-slaying ancestor could not be erased by the God Temple realm. The god-slaying organization was still high and mighty, but it was no longer as revered as before. There was no danger, no crisis. Their heroic spirit had long been exhausted. I cannot let the faith of the god-slaying organization disappear in my hands. Emperor Shang's weathered face was filled with sorrow. The god-slaying organization had gone through countless difficulties and dangers, and who knew how many martyrs had died to obtain this situation. The god-slaying organization could not lose their faith just because the emperor's sword was broken. After searching for half a year, Emperor Shang finally found the lightning region. When he saw the broken emperor's sword still stabbed into the rock like a man, his eyes were filled with tears. The spirit of the emperor's sword was already dead, and only half of the sword was left. Emperor Shang pulled it out, and it was as if he had returned to the past. Yi Feng looked from afar. He had experienced that era and understood Emperor Shang's sadness. He could not help but sigh. "Senior, now that the plain is peaceful, why are you still clinging to the past? Be vigilant in times of peace, never forget the past. The glory of our ancestors will never be erased by time. The glory of our killing shrine will never be erased. No matter what era it is, deity slayers must always remember that the lives we have today were bought with the blood and lives of our ancestors." Di Shang looked at Yi Feng. He vaguely remembered that these young people had participated in battles to the death when they were very young. It was not easy for them to survive until now. Yi Feng was silent. Di Shang took the broken sword and returned to the ancient Killing God organization. There were many unfamiliar faces here, but Di Shang's face was not unfamiliar to them. Di Shang's return to the ancient Massacre God Palace instantly shook the entire imperial region. The current controller of the Massacre God Palace was an extremely powerful massacre god in the past. His name was Yannan, and he had already grown into an old man. At this moment, when he looked at Di Shang, he actually cried like a child. Yannan, reorganize the ancient massacring gods and hunters. I want the ancient massacring gods to regain their fighting spirit. I want the glory of the ancient massacring gods to be eternal. The ancient massacre gods who don't have the strength and mental fortitude are all eliminated. The ancient massacre gods don't want trash. Di Shang said coldly. Yes, Lord. Yannan had long wanted to reorganize the ancient massacring gods. War could make people's fighting spirit rise, but a luxurious life could also temper a person's will. The ancient massacre gods and hunters had already lost their fighting spirit. Because they were high and mighty, no one dared to provoke them. Even the current deity's palace had to give them face. In the godly slaughter world, Di Shang took out the origin of fire and godly metal he had brought from the mythological plane. After 49 days of tempering and refining, he finally melted them into a liquid state. As the liquid boiled, the temperature of the godly slaughter world spread to the outside world. Di Shang's godhead flew out of his body. His godly body carried the broken emperor's sword and directly plunged into the molten metal. A mournful scream resounded through the mountains and rivers. The entire ancient massacre god organization was alarmed. Even the heavenly Tao was shaken. In order to restore the emperor's sword, Di Shang used his godly body's flesh and blood to melt into the molten metal. His powerful body couldn't withstand the burning of an 11th grade god flame and instantly disappeared. The molten metal seemed to have a spirit of its own. It was as if it was alive. It was strange and beautiful. It automatically took shape and evolved into the emperor's sword. It was exactly the same as the sword of the past. It was austere and majestic. It contained the fire origin and could tear apart space at any time. Di Shang's godhead was controlled by his soul. Seeing the emperor's sword return, it constantly trembled. The godhead directly flew into the emperor's sword and fused with it. With his flesh and blood as the sword body and his soul as the sword spirit, he had directly given up his life for the ancient massacre god and the emperor's sword. After becoming the sword spirit, he lost his own thoughts. He was completely based on the emperor's sword spirit of the past. The sword was still the emperor's sword, but Di Shang had completely disappeared. When Di Shang returned from the myth world, he had already prepared himself for death. For the ancient massacre god, for the glory of the massacre god organization, he would die without regret. Boom, boom, boom. Heaven and earth rumbled. Lightning tore through space and time and appeared in the sky above the massacre god world. It directly forcefully pulled the emperor's sword out and brought it into the universe. Countless lightning bolts covered the emperor's sword, and it let out a soft cry. It turned into a ray of divine light and shot into the sky. Countless lightning bolts descended from the heavens and cleansed the emperor's sword, acknowledging it. Snow fell for thousands of miles and time reversed. A few words were carved on the sword. On the front was Emperor's sword, and on the back was a line of small words. Ancient massacre god, even in death, massacre god immortal, eternal glory. This was the only mark left by Di Shang. Heaven and earth mourned. Not only did the heavens acknowledge the emperor's sword, but it also acknowledged Di Shang's actions. It directly took the emperor's sword away and sent it into the heavens. It used the mysteries of the heavens to strengthen the emperor's sword. The mysteries of the heavens and the source of all laws condensed into the emperor's sword. 2 more words appeared on the front of the emperor's sword. Heavenly Tao. Heavenly Tao, human emperor's sword. Enforcing justice on behalf of the heavens. When this sword appeared, it represented the supreme glory of the endless plains. Once it succeeded, its level would be unimaginable. It would definitely surpass Yi Qinghan's 7-foot berserk sword. It might even become a legendary superior divine weapon. However, whether it could become a superior divine weapon or not, Di Shang could not do anything. It would depend on the heaven's ability and its future potential. If it could develop into a middle plane, this heavenly Tao human emperor's sword would definitely become a superior divine weapon. However, if it became a divine weapon, it would have its own sword spirit and its own destiny. It would protect the endless universe and protect the ancient massacre god. Not just anyone could use the emperor's sword. At this moment, the entire plane could feel the pressure of heaven and earth increase. It was heavy and full of sorrow. Chapter 6:23. In the endless plains, myths and legends were born. The heavens blessed the world, and the sword merged with the way of heaven. At this moment, all the creatures born in the endless plains felt a powerful force coming from their bodies, and they felt the way of heaven. Yi Qinghan from the mythological dimension was an expert from the inner sect of the insane faction. Emperor Yi, in particular, had benefited the most. He had directly stepped into the realm of a medium god, and his soul had been strengthened by more than a few times. Not only these people, but also the ancestors of the human race, the masters who came out of the endless plains, all felt the power from the plains. Most of those people became gods. After all, anyone who could become a human ancestor would have a high level of cultivation. It was especially so for the supreme beings of the past, who had left countless legends in the endless plains, such as Shenong. Several Renhuangs woke up from their seclusion at the same time. They looked up at the sky and sighed softly. Has the endless plains leveled up? In the endless plains. Whoosh, whoosh. The heavenly way human emperor sword flew between heaven and earth, and the killing god's power spread out. The ancient killing god was full of vitality again. Even if he died on the battlefield, he would not regret it. This was the inheritance and faith of the ancient killing god. As long as the faith existed, the killing god's faith would never die. The masters of the various temples came out of seclusion and knelt in front of the sword. The temples believed in the people who had made great contributions to the endless plains, and they believed in the people who saved the endless plains from the abyss of hell. The biggest temple was naturally the temple of war. The person who dared to call himself the god of war was naturally the person who uprooted the Forbidden Land, Yi Qinghan. At this moment, they were all willing to kneel. This emperor's sword had a special meaning. Whether it was the one in the past or the one now, they all represented the same meaning, which was to protect. The words on the back of the divine sword turned into golden light and rushed to every corner of the endless plains. The ancient killing god, even if he died, he would not regret it. As long as the killing god was not destroyed, his glory would be eternal. At this moment, this emperor's sword not only represented the ancient killing god, but also the way of heaven. This was the second time the way of heaven had recognized a sword after Emperor Yi. Jianqinshu stepped out of the river of time and appeared thousands of miles away, looking at the heavenly way human emperor's sword. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, thousands of miles of mountains and rivers, all the heroes of the world came out. Looking at the small line of words on the back of the sword, his heart suddenly became sour. That's right. Now, the endless plains had become stronger. The heavenly Tao was sentimental, and all living things had their own will and freedom. But what did they rely on? Without the human sovereign's sword, there would be no endless plains today. Although they were living a good life now, were they going to forget their fighting spirit? If the Guangzong were to be defeated one day, who would stand in front of them? People must rely on themselves. Yi Feng looked at the Renhuang sword from afar. He did not want to take it for himself. Now that the Renhuang sword had appeared, Emperor Shang had not appeared. The origin of this sword was self-evident. Using one's life to create a sword was not something that just anyone could have. No one disliked this guardian sword, but most of them were able to get rid of their greed. However, some of them couldn't hold it in any longer and directly flew up into the sky, rushing towards the mortal sovereign sword. Whoosh! The sword light shattered the heaven and earth, and a strand of sword chi shattered the bodies of those experts. Blood spilled over the mountains and rivers, shocking everyone. Now, the protector sword was no longer an imperial weapon. It was a mid-tier divine artifact. Sooner or later, it would be promoted to a high-level divine artifact. Once the heavenly path was promoted or Emperor Yi was promoted to a high-level divine artifact, this protector sword would also be promoted to a high-level divine artifact. When Emperor Yi became a superior divine priest, he would become a medium divine weapon. When the heavenly way was promoted, so would the guardian sword. On that day, a huge earthquake occurred in the ancient massacre god. Some of them were demoted to hunters, and some were even directly kicked out of the ancient massacre god. The ancient massacre god announced that they would show the glory of the past. The true ancient massacre god would all die on the battlefield. With the human sovereign sword, whoever dared to be dissatisfied would be killed. Most of the people who were kicked out of the ancient massacre god were young masters of aristocratic families. Unfortunately, they didn't succeed and instead became a laughingstock. Jian Qinshui pointed at the human sovereign sword, and it automatically flew into his hand, continuously emitting a dazzling divine light. Looking at the words carved on the back of the sword, he knew that this sword was exchanged with Di Shang's life. He couldn't help but sigh. Holding the sword, he directly entered the deity realm and handed the sword to Di Longtian. Di Longtian held the sword and kept stroking it. He didn't expect that Di Shang's departure would be an eternal farewell. The strong big boy shed tears, which dripped onto the back of the sword, giving off a pleasant sound. It was like the sound of nature. When the people in the inner sect found out that Di Shang had turned his body into a sword and his godhead into a sword spirit, they all came out of seclusion to comfort Di Longtian. Emperor Ye's eyes reddened. Di Shang was still his master. Even though he had never called him master, deep in his heart, he greatly approved of Di Shang. Di Shang was a tragic person. Even though he had escaped death several times and saved countless lives, he couldn't stop the obsession in his heart. He used his own life to exchange for the glory and inheritance of the ancient massacre god. Little Tian, now that the ancient massacre god is changing, you probably have to go back. After all, this is an internal matter of the ancient massacre god. It's not good for me to interfere, Jian Qinshui said gently. Di Longtian pursed his lips and nodded. However, he soon shook his head. There was less than half a year before the competition started. What if he couldn't come back? Go back. Half a year is more than enough time for you to deal with the ancient massacre gods. Now that the ancient massacre gods are without a leader and have begun to change their ranks, you have no choice but to go back, Emperor Yi said. In the end, Di Longtian nodded. The ancient massacre god was his father's life's work. He couldn't just watch it go to waste. Sister Shui, take a few godhoods back. They might be useful. Emperor Yi waved his hand and took out a few of the best intermediate godhoods and lower godhoods, giving them to Jian Qinshui. The children are quite good. They are very talented and will definitely surpass me. I will nurture them well. You can develop here in peace. Jian Qinshui was very gentle and kept looking for Yi Qinghan. Unfortunately, she couldn't find him. Sister Shui, you have worked hard. Emperor Yi was very grateful. If Jian Qinshui didn't take care of so many children in the endless plains, how could the people of the inner sect cultivate in peace? Moreover, his children were still in the endless plains. Sister, what are you saying? They are also my children. The three of them are so young, yet they have already reached the Emperor realm. I didn't even dare to think about it back then. After a few days, they will be able to refine the godhoods. At that time, I will send them here to train. Jian Qinshui looked at the mythical plane and yearned for it. However, with her children here, she had to protect Owl War Star. It has been very dangerous recently. Send them back in a few years. Let them cultivate well. Here are the secret techniques and divine medicines I have prepared for them. Emperor Yi kept all the good things and sent them back to Owl War Star. Many of the children's talents surpassed the adults of the inner sect. They were worth nurturing. No one envied the inner sect experts. After all, their children were also on Owl War Star. If Jian Qinshui wanted to nurture them, she would definitely nurture them all. Chapter 624. Di Longtian followed Jian Qinshui back to the endless world with the human sovereign's sword in his hand. Yan Nan gave up his position, and Di Longtian became the leader of the ancient massacre god. Pass down my order, the ancient massacre god will begin to reduce members. I want the strongest elites, the most courageous men, the elites who dare to die for the world. Those who do not meet my requirements will either be demoted to hunters and be reassessed, or be kicked out of the ancient massacre god. In addition, increase the difficulty of the ancient massacre god's assessment by 10 times, and give out godheads as rewards. Anyone who becomes an emperor will receive a lesser godhead when they reach the emperor realm. Increase the difficulty of the hunter's assessment by 5 times, and give out emperor realm secret techniques and emperor realm cultivation insights as rewards. Di Longtian acted swiftly and decisively. As the dragon cavalry's supervisor, he was able to control the ancient massacre god with ease. Some of the higher-ups of the ancient massacre god were excited, while others were worried. Since Di Longtian wanted to reorganize the ancient massacre god, the higher-ups would be forced into a passive position. Sure enough, Di Longtian decided to completely reorganize the ancient massacre god, and the higher-ups were especially strict. However, the rewards were not small. Those who were truly capable would be happy, and those who were not would not be able to get godhead. It would be a miracle if they could keep their lofty status. The next day, the ancient massacre god once again shook the endless plains of existence. There were a total of 10 elders in the ancient massacre god's faction, but 7 of them were demoted to ordinary ancient massacre gods. However, 3 of them were rewarded with godhood and 300 low-grade god crystals. This was the most exciting reward. In the endless world, apart from geniuses like Yi Feng, there were not many who could condense their own godhead. If they wanted to become a god, they had to obtain godheads. Entering the ancient killing god exam was the fastest way to become a god. The ancient massacre god became active again. Di Longtian had learned a lot from Yi Qinghan over the years, and his ability to control the ancient massacre god was very strong. His superior aura was very powerful, and no one dared to refute him. The reorganization of the ancient massacre god went very smoothly. Even if there were people who were dissatisfied, they could not change the situation. In the end, they were all kicked out. In order to obtain the title of ancient slaughter god for these so-called geniuses, the powerful families had started to send gifts to them. Unfortunately, how could the 3 remaining elders dare to bend the law? If he wanted to join the ancient massacre god, he would have to risk his life. If he failed, he would be crippled even if he didn't die. Di Longtian's iron-blooded policy attracted the cheers and support of the true elites, but it also made many aristocratic families complain. They all went to Owl War Planet to complain, hoping that Jian Qinxue could intercede for them. However, they were all kicked out of Owl War Planet by Jian Qinxue. Owl Warstar was now a holy land, an existence above the Dao realm holy lands, let alone the ordinary aristocratic families. Even the divine halls had to listen to Owl Warstar's orders. However, Owl Warstar could not issue many orders. The Wang clan was too lazy to care about worldly affairs. Yi Mingxi was in seclusion all year round, trying to break through to the divine priest realm. She was also condensing her own godhood. Therefore, although Owl Warstar was above the worldly affairs, only Jian Qinxue was qualified to issue orders. Anyone else's orders could be ignored. This was also to prevent some people from Owl Warstar from becoming corrupted and polluting the endless plains. On Owl Warstar, a group of little fellows were flying about in the sky and burrowing into the ground, making a ruckus. There were more than 10 little boys, most of them 5 or 6 years old, and there were more than 20 little girls of similar ages. They were all very cute and pretty, having inherited their parents' looks. Their talents were even more terrifying. There were more than 30 children, and the leader was none other than Yi Qintian. He was the abnormal kid who called himself God Qintian the moment he was born. Void God Ye's aura was reserved, and he was different from Yi Qintian. They were 2 extremes. Half of Yi Qintian's nature came from Yi Qinghan's stability and arrogance, and the other half came from the divine bird's prenatal education. He was a little unreliable, and his actions were exaggerated. Void God Yi, on the other hand, inherited Emperor Ye's introverted and steady nature, cold but intelligent. However, The two little devils were afraid of Yi Yun. This little girl's cunning eyes were frightening, and her personality was almost the same as the divine bird's. Her prenatal education was too powerful, and she could easily kill people. God Chintian, let's fight. Do you want to fight all of us alone, or do you want all of us to fight you? Yi Yun-er's round little face had a strange smile. She looked very smart. Yi Chintian, there were more than 30 people. Not to mention Void God Yi, Lin Wutian's son, Lin Feng with the sky sword body, Lu Aotian and Fairy Shenong's son, Lu Xinyu, and a group of monsters. Not to mention Yi Chintian, even if a divine priest came, this group of children could take care of him. What? Aren't you called God Chintian, and you are invincible? Why don't you dare? Yi Yun crossed her arms and asked with a pout. Humph. Who says I don't dare? But I have a stomachache today, and I'm not fit to fight. You guys play first, I'm going back to recuperate. Yi Chintian quibbled. After he finished speaking, he rushed back to his old house, and no one called him out. Ha ha ha, God Chintian admits defeat. Ha ha ha. The group of children were as close as brothers and sisters, and their laughter traveled far. The group of women covered their mouths and giggled. Jian Qinxue shook her head and sighed. Yi Chintian had inherited all the advantages of Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi. In a one-on-one fight, Void God Yi was slightly stronger than him. Lin Feng with the sky sword body and Void God Yi together might be able to force Yi Chintian to a draw, but Yi Chintian would not be able to take on more than 30 monsters. Only Xiao Yun can take care of Chintian. This little guy is so arrogant all the time, he deserves to be taught a lesson. A young woman snickered. Yi Yun was also very happy. If she could take care of Yi Chintian, she could take care of this group of children as well. She had become a lawless little princess. Xiao Zhanxing is boring. Let's go to the ancient god of massacre to play, okay? I heard that brother Xiao Tian is back, and he will reward us with a godhead. Let's go take the test, maybe we can get one. Yi Yun said excitedly. Whoosh! Yi Chintian, the little guy, rushed back from the ancestral house and shouted, I agree. It's much better than having a group of people beat me up. Aren't you sick? Void God Yi asked in a muffled voice. I've almost recovered, hee. Yi Chintian scratched his head and laughed. A group of 5 or 6-year-old children was so cute that they became the most beautiful scenery on Xiao Zhanxing. With this group of children, the Wang family had long forgotten about Yi Qinghan and Yi Mingxi. After everyone had finished discussing, Yi Chintian took the lead and led more than 35 or 6-year-old children out of Xiao Zhanxing, rushing toward the imperial domain. No one from Xiao Zhanxing followed them. They allowed the group of children to soar through the sky and burrow into the ground. These children's combat power was terrifying. Although they were young, if anyone dared to look down on them, they would be in serious trouble. Chapter 625. In the Imperial Domain, outside of the ancient massacre god, in the hunter's territory, numerous battles were taking place. Di Longtian began to mobilize the vitality of the entire boundless world, gathering geniuses, and preparing to bring the ancient massacre god into the mythical realm as well, creating an invincible battle team. Countless battles began at the same time. Just like in the past, all the different spaces opened at the same time, and life and death battles began. With the human sovereign sword, the ancient killing god finally returned to his original state, solemn and dignified, representing supreme power. Half of the Tao realm holy land of the past was restored, but the other half was forever buried in the river of history. The Zhan family recovered. The baby that was sent away in the past was actually the Zhan family's ancient war body. Now that he had become the family head, he was going to lead the Zhan family back to the peak. Owl Warstar gave the Zhan family the greatest support, resources, secret techniques, and so on. The family head, Zhan Yun, had already entered the Emperor realm. At this moment, he was mobilizing the faith power of the family, preparing to condense a godhead and become a supreme god. As a war body, he already had the dignity of his ancestor, not losing to Di Longtian. With the sky battle spear in hand, he was like a true war god. At this moment, Zhang Yun was heading to the ancient killing god to visit Di Longtian. If Di Longtian didn't count the days when he was sealed, he would be from the same era as him. He looked forward to seeing Di Longtian go to the mythical realm in advance. Xiao xiao xiao, dozens of figures flashed in the sky above the imperial domain. They were all 5 or 6 years old, and the oldest was no more than 7 years old. They were as fast as lightning, rushing in front of Zhang Yun. "Hey, big brother Yun!" A group of little guys surrounded Zhang Yun and touched his armor and spear, looking very envious. Zhang Yun thought he knew this group of little ancestors. He smiled and hugged Yi Yuner, asking with a smile, "What are you little guys doing in the imperial domain? We heard that big brother Xiao Tian is back, so we came to disturb him and ask him to tell us about our father's battle result. This great god Chen Tian wants to go to the mythical realm to fight." Yi Chen Tian raised his little fist and said, "Ha ha, we have the same goal. Let's go see big brother Xiao Tian." Zhang Yun laughed and rushed towards the ancient killing god with a group of children. When such a large group of people rushed into the territory of the hunters, the appearance of so many children scared the ancient god of massacre. They must have come from the Owl War Star. So, the ancient god of massacre took out spirit fruits and treasures to coax these kids. Yi Chen Tian and the others didn't care about divine pellets and miraculous medicines at all. It was better to give them spiritual fruits. Therefore, everyone took out spiritual fruits and rare treasures. The group of little fellows was very generous. They took out secret techniques and godhoods to exchange. The secret techniques were fine, but the godhoods were something that the group of killing gods didn't dare to accept. Di Longtian didn't stand on ceremony. Resources had to be fought for, and these little fellows didn't lack resources or talent. Even if they didn't need a godhead, they could still condense one. Since you've given it to me, just accept it. There's no need to be courteous with them. Di Longtian laughed. "Brother little Tian, take us to the mythical realm next time." Void God Yi looked at Di Longtian with a serious expression and said excitedly. Di Longtian rolled his eyes. If he took these little fellows to the mythical realm, the group of people from the inner sect would beat him to death. With so many little fellows, if something happened, the inner sect would probably go crazy. "You are still young. When you are my age, I will come and pick you up." Di Longtian didn't refuse. Instead, he drew a big pie that couldn't be eaten. "That will take a long time. After all, we are only 5 years old." Yi Yuner was helpless. Although they were smart, they were still too young. In addition, Jian Chenxue had sealed them for a period of time for them to grow up. Their real age was indeed only 5 years old. So there's no need to rush. If you want to go to war, you must first become a god and cultivate at least 3 powerful secret techniques. Once you have cultivated to the 3rd move of the great Nirvana sword art, I will take you there. Di Longtian promised. Really? Yi Chen Tian was excited. He felt that cultivating a secret technique was very simple. However, he didn't know that Di Longtian was cheating him. Even Yi Qinghan himself had only cultivated to the 1st move of the great Nirvana sword art. Di Longtian's lips curled into a sly smile as he nodded resolutely. "Join my ancient massacre god and speed up your cultivation. I will teach you how to go to war in the mythical plane. I will also tell you about your father." Di Longtian began to trick this group of little fellows, trying to get them to join the ancient massacre god. In the end, this group of little fellows didn't have much experience in scheming. They were immediately lured into the ancient massacre god by Di Longtian. Zhang Yun shrugged and looked at Di Longtian. This boy wasn't much older than him. He was very envious. It was a pity that he was born more than 10 years later. Otherwise, he would definitely be able to kill his way into the mythical plane like Di Longtian. However, this group of little fellows was also envious of Zhang Yun at this moment in the mythical plane, the Western Garrison Prefecture. Yi Qinghan couldn't have imagined that Di Longtian would actually trick those little fellows into joining the ancient godly massacre god after returning to the ancient godly massacre god, speeding up their journey to the mythological plane. Right now, they were bitterly cultivating secret arts and guarding the Western Suppression Prefecture. In the blink of an eye, more than a month had passed. The gathering of treasures from dozens of auction houses of the three clear divine kingdom had attracted thousands of powerful practitioners. Now, the Western Garrison Prefecture was filled with danger from all sides. Even the Western Garrison Liege Lord had to be extra careful. After obtaining the 12th grade fire origin, Silo had actually awakened the ancient massacre god's bloodline. The inheritance of the fire sovereign god's bloodline made him extremely majestic. His battle strength had increased by several times. The tempering of his body was almost not inferior to Yi Qinghan. He was still wearing that bamboo hat. It was as black as ink. His original appearance couldn't be seen. With the ancient massacre god's bloodline, it was easy to cultivate a secret technique. Yi Qinghan had taken a long time to execute the first move of the Great Nirvana sword art. Moreover, its power wasn't even 30% of its peak. Silo had actually used a month to cultivate the first move. Its power had reached 50% of its peak. On this day, Yi Qinghan slowly got up and calculated the time. Today should be the day of the Western Garrison Prefecture's auction. He had to cooperate with the Western Garrison Lord to move the treasures to the auction house and guard the auction house. When he arrived outside Silo's room, Silo had just come out of seclusion. His aura had become deep and silent. He was like a volcano that could erupt at any moment and could destroy all life in his vicinity. "Let's go take a look at the auction. You might like something." Yi Qinghan smiled and said, "I don't have money." Silo was helpless. He had been on the run all year round. How could he have the opportunity to earn divine crystals? "Count it on me. You can slowly pay me back in the future." Yi Qinghan grinned. He always wanted to tie Silo to his chariot. Silo wouldn't be able to escape even if he wanted to. He wasn't afraid of how many divine crystals Silo would use. He was only afraid that Silo wouldn't use enough. "Then I won't be polite." Silo shrugged. He already owed Yi Qinghan a favor. Just this fire origin alone had awakened the ancient massacre god's bloodline. It was enough for him to repay this debt for a long time. In addition to the great Nirvana sword art, why would he care about using Yi Qinghan's divine crystals? The two found the Western Garrison Lord and began to move the treasures to the auction house. Chapter 626. Yi Qinghan was dressed in black and wore a bamboo hat. He walked side by side with Si Luo into the West Garrison auction house. At this moment, the West Garrison Prefecture was packed with people. The army of the West Garrison Prefecture had all retreated back to the outskirts of the city. They were afraid that there would be experts causing trouble. There were many strangers. Even those who were as strong as the prefecture head could be seen. Most of them were gods and overlords. Ordinary families were as numerous as the hairs on a cow. Some rich young masters and chief disciples of the sects were accompanied by Tao protectors as they descended to the West Garrison. The divine bird sat on Long Shue's shoulder, trying to trick her. Fortunately, Long Shue had been warned by the Western Garrison Liege Lord. Otherwise, she would have been tricked by the divine bird. In any case, Long Shue was a princess of a royal family, an evil little witch. Although she had no wisdom, she was smart. However, she couldn't outsmart the divine bird. In the end, she still got into trouble. A few young experts appeared in front of her. They were dressed in Tian K Divine College's uniform. Each of them was arrogant and full of battle intent. Their battle strength was definitely not weak. Moreover, they had a huge family behind them. They didn't care about this small West garrison. Get out of my way. The leader was a powerful young man. He had the battle strength of an extreme lower-level almighty. Just by his realm alone, he could suppress those of the same level. Coupled with his high status as a divine college disciple, ordinary people wouldn't dare to provoke him. His name was Su Feiyue. He was a top expert in the second year of Tian-Ke Divine College. He was even stronger than Mu Feilong. Behind him were 3 men and 4 women. Behind him was the 12th rank Su family. They had 10,000 years of history. Many people recognized their origins and hurriedly made way for them. F***ck, these birds are more arrogant than you. Beat them to death. The divine bird was angry when it saw the Tian-Ke Divine College's disciples. It wanted to teach them a lesson, but it didn't dare to do it. Long Shui curled her lip. Although she didn't like these people in front of her, listening to the divine bird's words would definitely cause trouble. Therefore, she suppressed her anger and ignored the divine bird. Seeing that Long Shui was holding back, the divine bird snorted. It looked at Su Feiyue and the others who ran in front of it. It took a deep breath and spat out a mouthful of fire. Then, it changed its voice and imitated Long Shui's voice. The Divine College actually teaches such trash. Unable to withstand a single blow. After saying this, the divine bird quickly lay on Long Shui's shoulder and pretended to be dead. Su Feiyue and the others had their backs set ablaze by the divine fire, and their hair was instantly burnt away. The tearing pain caused them to scream in agony. Although the divine bird's fire was not as powerful as the little golden crows and Yiqinghan's, it was enough to make the lesser gods feel pain. Ah, the heart-wrenching screams of the delicate girls instantly alerted the surrounding experts. They all turned their heads and saw the girls dancing with joy. Gloating smiles appeared on their faces. With a wave of his hand, Su Feiyue extinguished the flames and glared at Long Shui. Seeing that she was a beauty, he cursed. "Slut, you dare to sneak attack my people? Today, I'll properly take care of you." Boom. Su Feiyue stretched out his hand and tore open space, grabbing at Long Shui. Clearly, he didn't know that she was the beloved daughter of the Western garrison. Long Shui had never been scolded like this before. She directly used the divine tool that the Western garrison liege lord had given her, which contained the peak attack of the Western garrison liege lord. Boom. Bang. Su Feiyue's palm was pierced through by the sword. Even his entire arm was blown to smithereens. He let out a blood-curdling scream and fell into the distance, smashing several of his followers into the ground. "You dare to scold this princess? I'll beat you to death." Bang bang bang. Boom boom boom. With the help of the garrison liege lord's offensive divine tool, Long Shui instantly suppressed Su Feiyue and began to fight with the group of pursuers. A large number of guards arrived. When they saw that their princess was actually fighting with these people without any reason, more than 100 low-level god priests were ganging up on these 7 or 8 disciples of the Heavenly Imperial Divine Academy. Miserable screams immediately filled the sky. Everyone hurriedly dodged. "Serves you right for being so arrogant. Ha ha, this is going to be a good show. The princess of the Western Garrison Liege Lord and the disciples of the Heavenly Imperial Divine Academy are fighting. I wonder if the people behind them will be angered." Those who were able to attend the auction all had high statuses. They didn't want to become enemies with these two parties, but that didn't mean that they didn't dare to gloat. "Throw them out of the Western Garrison Liege Lord's residence," Long Shui angrily reprimanded. "You bitch, I'm going to kill you today." In any case, Su Feiyue was the young master of a large aristocratic family and a high and mighty student of the Heavenly Imperial Divine Academy. How could he endure such humiliation? He directly roared, and his voice shook 1,000 miles. He wanted to attract the experts of his family. Ha ha ha! Long Shui was so angry that her whole body trembled. She had always been the one bullying others. How could she be bullied by others? Go. Hang this bastard up on the city wall for this princess. I want to beat him to death. Long Shui roared. A large number of guards rushed towards Su Feiyue and the others, preparing to use the god-binding chains to tie this group of people up so that Long Shui could vent her anger. All of you, stop! A low, angry roar filled with dense killing intent caused the surrounding people to not dare to move. It was the aura of a mid-level almighty expert. The elder of the Su family, Su Chuan, took a step forward and looked down. He stared at Su Feiyue, Long Shui and the others and coldly said, "What? Are you bullying us because we're outsiders?" Long Shui was about to go crazy from anger. The divine bird was playing dead. Only now did she understand that this fellow was really despicable to the extreme. This princess is bullying you guys? This trash of yours called me a despicable person the moment he opened his mouth. I want the Su family to give me an explanation. Otherwise, I will definitely kill him and no one will be able to stop me. Long Shui angrily rebuked. Ancestor, she was the one who set the fire and attacked us first. She humiliated my divine college, and even used her guards to beat us. She clearly doesn't put my Su family and Tian Ke Divine College in her eyes. Su Feiyue wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, and said with grievance, "Ha ha ha, you can ask everyone around here if I was the one who set the fire just now. Don't tell me that everyone in this world is my Western garrison's servant. They won't lie, right? If they say that I ambushed you, I will kneel and apologize to you. If I wasn't the one who ambushed you, I want you to die. Do you dare to agree?" Long Shui asked with a cold smile. "I dare." Su Feiyue roared without hesitation. "Everyone, was I the one who set the fire and ambushed them? I only want to ask, was it me? Whoever saw it can testify for me." Long Shui stared at everyone. Most of them were unfamiliar faces, but there were quite a few experts. Everyone laughed. This Su Feiyue was really unlucky. This fire really wasn't set by the Dragon Princess, ha ha. The people behind all testified, but they didn't point out that the fire was set by the divine bird. After all, both sides wanted an answer to confirm whether the fire was set by the princess or not. Su Chuan's face immediately turned ugly. It was impossible for so many people to be lying, especially those old bastards. They were all medium god priests, and some of them were even acquaintances. It was enough that it wasn't Long Shui who ambushed them. No matter who it was, today's conflict was Su Feiyue's fault. Boom! Su Chuan kicked Su Feiyue and sealed his divine power. He didn't even allow him to speak. Then he cupped his fists and said, "Princess Long, Feiyue definitely didn't mean to offend you. This child is in the wrong. I will definitely bring him back and discipline him strictly. I hope that princess can be magnanimous and not bicker with him." Tisk Tsk, Tian Ke Divine College really teaches a bunch of idiots. The divine bird took advantage of the situation and still acted innocent. Tian Ke Divine College was implicated and was thoroughly humiliated. Everyone couldn't help but laugh. They were all amused by the divine bird's cheap appearance. Chapter 627. Yi Qinghan stood in front of the auction house, watching the divine bird teasing the disciples of Tian Ke Divine College. Tian Ke Divine College had already established a hostile relationship with Yi Qinghan, and it was only a matter of time before a fight broke out. "You seem to have more enemies than I do," Cyro said in a low and hoarse voice. "It's all right. If I want to reach the peak, I have to step on all these people." Yi Qinghan turned around and walked into the auction house. The interior design was similar to the Crazy Mansion auction house, but it was slightly smaller. It was divided into 4 levels, and the upper levels were all VIP areas. The 4th level was for mansion masters, and the 3rd level was for extreme middle god almighties. The second level was for ordinary middle god almighties, and some ordinary family heads, sect masters, and elders. The first level was for ordinary lower god almighties, and there were even quite a few emperor-level figures. However, those who dared to come to the auction house had to have a high status. Let's go to the private rooms on the fourth level. Yi Qinghan led Cairo to the fourth level. There were more than 50 private rooms on the fourth level, and they were arranged in a circle. The ceiling was like a dome. The private rooms had already been reserved in advance. Other than some prefecture masters and prefecture masters, there were also some extreme Tao almighties and top-notch existences in the middle god shrine. Their identities and backgrounds were all extraordinary. Yi Qinghan used his identity as Western Garrison Liege Lord to secure the last private room. Private room number 52. The two were dressed in black, and they were very eye-catching. However, no one recognized them as Crazy Mansion Master Yi Qinghan and Cairo, who was ranked 8th on the wind cloud list. In the open-air corridor, Yi Qinghan led Cairo into private room number 52. From the private room, one could see the entire auction house clearly. There were more than 30,000 people in this auction house. Western Garrison Liege Lord personally sat on the auction stage. He was wearing a royal robe, and his divine aura was overwhelming. The people below the third level did not dare to make a sound. The mansion masters on the fourth level were as cold iron, and they only looked at the treasures without talking. Fellow Taoists, this auction organized by the Three Clear Divine Kingdom has collected all the supreme treasures in the world, from primal chaos supreme treasures to top-tier mid-tier divine artifacts, and even half-step high-tier divine artifacts to top-tier emperor-tier divine herbs. All of them are the best of the best among the various grades of divine artifact. Top emperor-tier divine artifacts, 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 top emperor-tier divine artifacts. The auction house will open today, and the auction will last for 10 days. I'm sure everyone knows the rules of the auction. The highest bidder will win, and no one is allowed to use their power to oppress others. If I find out that someone is using their power to oppress others, I won't let them off easily. Lord Zhen Shi swept his gaze over the crowd, looking incomparably dignified. Finally, his gaze landed on the fourth floor. These people were the hardest to please. There were only a little over 100 of them, and they occupied 52 private rooms. However, their origins were not simple. Many of them were from God's organization. Even if they were not, they were still powerful existences at the level of prefecture masters. They were not any weaker than Lord Zhen Shi. However, Western Garrison Liege Lord was not worried about this auction. The Garrison Liege Lord had sent 3 mansion masters to help him guard this auction house. In addition to Yi Qinghan and Cairo, 3 to 5 mansion masters who wanted to cause trouble could be suppressed. As for the other forces, even if they dared to cause trouble, they would have to consider whether the forces behind them could contend against the Garrison Liege Lord. This Garrison Liege Lord is naturally happy, but those who make things difficult for this Garrison Liege Lord, I will make them very sad. Western Garrison Liege Lord first gave a warning. There were more than 30,000 people, and it was unknown how many of them were overlords. They were unruly and difficult to serve. Without a warning, they would not know how to restrain themselves. All the heroes were silent. They knew that before the auction started, there would be a routine of intimidation. Most of the time, no one dared to cause trouble in the auction house. However, if someone really did cause trouble, the Western garrison liege lord wouldn't be able to intimidate the other party. Once that kind of person turned hostile, they definitely wouldn't put the divine nation and the Western garrison prefecture in their eyes. For example, even the divine nation's divine lord would have to give face to the last disciple of a superior god. Soon, Western garrison liege lord announced the start of the auction. The appraiser was the head appraiser of the three clear divine nation, Sima Sun. His name was well known everywhere. None of the goods sold by him were defective. Everyone could rest assured. The auctioneer was even more famous. Her name was known throughout the divine realm. Not only was her auction skills top-notch, but her appearance was also one of the top 10 beauties in the divine realm. She was ranked 8th, and her name was Yao Yan. It was said that her true form was a 9-tailed demon fox. She emitted a charming and enchanting aura. When the two appeared, the atmosphere in the auction house reached a boiling point. Many men looked at Yao Yan with infatuation, wishing that they could pounce on her. Yao Yan was indeed very pretty and charming. Her eyebrows were naturally shaped, making people infatuated with her. With such a person in charge of the auction, it would definitely arouse the bestial nature of men and make them flaunt their wealth. Yi Qinghan looked at Yao Yan's voluptuous figure and entered deep thought. Then, he thought to himself, if I can rope her in to join the Wild Mansion auction house, the Wild Mansion auction house would be halfway to success. However, such a woman was not that easy to rope in. Not to mention her beauty, her strength was already close to the level of a manor master. Who in the world would not give her face? Just at this moment, Long Shui followed the divine bird and tiptoed into private room 52. Then, she looked down with an expression of anticipation. Seniors, fellow Taoists, clan heads, and various overlords, how are you? Welcome to the Western Garrison Auction House. This time, this humble girl, Yao Yan, will be in charge of auctioning the various grades of divine herbs and supreme treasures. I hope that everyone will bid enthusiastically. Please do not make things difficult for this humble girl. Yao Yan smiled charmingly and gently blinked her right eye. A star-like light flashed and entered everyone's eyes. Many low-ranked cultivators nearly went into shock on the spot. Dong, dong, dong. Many people's heartbeats quickened. Yao Yan's gaze was filled with charm, indiscriminately attacking the hearts of everyone on the 4th floor and below. Even those on the 4th floor were affected. From this, one could see how terrifying her charm was. Long Shui snorted and said disdainfully, "Vixen, you rely on your beauty to attract people. What a bunch of lustful men. No matter how much they cultivate, they will never be able to change their greed." TSK. That might not be the case. My master does not love women, the divine bird retorted. Long Shui looked at Yi Qinghan. He was currently drinking drunken god wine with Siro. He did not even look at Yao Yan. Her eyes filled with stars as she rejoiced inwardly, as expected of the Wild Mansion master, Yi Qinghan. The man I admire is too handsome. Don't be infatuated with my master. Little master will beat you up. The divine bird mocked when it saw Long Shui's infatuated expression. Long Shui glared at the divine bird, unwilling to say anything more. She turned to look at Yao Yan. At this moment, Yao Yan took out a brocade box and smiled like a flower. Then, she said in a melodious voice, "Since everyone is so excited, let the auction begin. The first supreme treasure is something I carefully selected. It will definitely not disappoint everyone. It is a consummation profound mystery, the thunder profound mystery. It is suitable for experts of all levels. As long as you comprehend this profound mystery, why should you worry about not reaching the peak of the great Tao? P.S. The computer I've been using for 4 years is broken. I want to change to a better one tomorrow, but I'm so stuck that my hair is about to fall out. I might have to postpone the update, so please forgive me." Chapter 628. It had to be said that Yao Yen was indeed good at auctioning. First, she charmed everyone. Then, she stirred up their emotions and chose a supreme treasure suitable for experts of various levels. As the first item to be auctioned, the Thunder Profound Mysteries jade strip was sufficient to move everyone. Even a manor master would be attracted. At the very least, Yi Qinghan would be attracted. After obtaining the Thunder Profound Mysteries and comprehending the Thunder Profound Mysteries to consummation, one could merge the Thunder Profound Mysteries into the five-element Tao body and start forging the primal chaos Tao body. To Yi Qinghan, any origin mysteries were supreme treasures, divine treasures that he had to fight for. Just as the countless experts in the auction hall were getting excited, Yao Yen waved the jade strip in her hand. Every action she took was filled with charm. She smiled and said, "This Thunder Profound Mysteries can be cultivated to consummation. Furthermore, there are cultivation insight. It is a peak rank 12 Origin Mysteries jade strip and is even useful to manor masters. The starting bid is 3 million medial grade divine spirit crystals. Each bid must not be less than 100,000. 3,200,000. 3,500,000. Right after Yao Yen spoke, some of the overlords started to make aggressive bids, increasing the bid by more than 100,000. This time, they were not trying to curry favor with Yao Yen. Instead, they truly wanted to obtain the Thunder Profound Mysteries. Too many people participated in the bidding, instantly eliminating a portion of them. Later on, an additional 100,000 medial grade divine spirit crystals would eliminate some of them. Regretful faces filled the hall. Curses rang out endlessly. The auction house did not allow anyone to buy on credit. One could buy as much as they brought in divine crystals. In the blink of an eye, the price of the Thunder Profound Mysteries rose to 5,500,000 medial grade divine spirit crystals. The second floor and the third floor all joined in the bidding. However, no one from the fourth floor made a bid. Even if one cultivated the Thunder Profound Mysteries to the highest level, it would not be as good as a manor master's secret technique. They would not waste large amounts of money to compete with a group of juniors for treasures. When Yao Yen discovered that the fourth floor was not in the mood to bid, she could not help but shake her head regretfully. Just at this moment, Yi Qinghan suddenly changed his tone and said, 6 million. Whoosh. The hall immediately fell silent. Even the overlords and clan heads on the second and third floor looked at the fourth floor, raising the bid by nearly 1 million medial grade divine spirit crystals in one go. Furthermore, it came from a private room on the fourth floor. 6,020,000. It was a young man from the third floor. He wore a golden battle robe, and he looked vigorous and resolute. His eyes were filled with untamed arrogance. Even though he was facing an expert from the fourth floor, he still wasn't willing to give up on the mysteries of the essence of lightning. His eyes were like flames as he looked toward booth 52. He was telling Yi Qinghan that he absolutely had to obtain this jade slip. As for Yao Yen, she looked at booth 52 with anticipation. She hoped that the two of them would start competing and raise the price of the first supreme treasure to a high price. It's someone from the Holy Dragon Divine Kingdom's Lei clan. His name is Thunder King, and he has the heavenly thunder physique. To him, the profound mysteries of thunder is his life. I reckon he'll go bankrupt. Long Shui reminded him in a low voice. The Lei clan is on good terms with father. There's nothing to be gained from fighting. The Thunder King was ranked 16th on the Wind Cloud ranking. He was of the lightning attribute and had an unyielding character. Relying on the heavenly lightning body, he could command the origin of all lightning in the world. If he had this jade strip, he would be like a tiger that had grown wings. Yi Qinghan fell silent. It was not that he wanted to compromise with the Lei clan, but that he did not want to become enemies with the Thunder King. Perhaps he could still rely on him for the arena competition. The Thunder King had not expected that the people in the fourth floor would give up just because he had tried to raise the price. Those people were all support-level existences. They would not care about this bit of divine crystals. Furthermore, they cared about face. After being humiliated in front of everyone, they would probably do everything they could to obtain the profound mysteries of thunder. Seeing Yi Qinghan give up, the Thunder King bowed respectfully. He owed Yi Qinghan a favor. Yao Yen sighed helplessly. This price was not high. At the very least, it was not ideal. Just when everyone thought that the dust had settled, another voice rang out from the third floor. 6,500,000. The voice was ear-piercing, tickling everyone's ears. It was very unpleasant to hear. Yi Qinghan looked down at the third floor and saw a wretched and cunning young man looking at the Thunder King provocatively. It was as if he was afraid that the Thunder King would not compete. It's this idiot again. This bastard has been going against Big Brother Thunder King time and time again. Could it be that their attributes really clash? Long Shui felt helpless. She knew that it would be difficult for the Thunder King to obtain the profound mysteries of thunder today. Yi Qinghan was curious. He asked indifferently, "Who is this person?" "He is from the three clear divine nations, Shui clan. His name is Shueihua, and he has always been at odds with the Thunder King. They have both represented their respective divine nations in the past and fought to a draw several times. He is ranked 17th on the Wind Cloud list. Most importantly, this Shui clan is a nouveau riche clan. Their clan owns a divine crystal mine that frequently produces high-grade divine crystals. Therefore, they do not take divine crystals seriously." The divine bird mocked in disdain. Suddenly, he raised the price of the profound mysteries of thunder to 10 million. Furthermore, he imitated the Thunder King's voice, which was deep and mighty. 10 million. In order to discuss the Thunder King, Shueihua did not hesitate to raise the price. 15 million. When it was time to raise the price, he discovered that it was not the Thunder King who raised the price. Instead, it was the person on the fourth floor. Furthermore, the person on the fourth floor had fallen silent and stopped bidding. Shueihua's expression could not help changing. 15 million mid-grade divine crystals. Even a prefecture master would feel the pinch. Furthermore, this was Shueihua. More importantly, he cultivated the profound mysteries of water. Water and thunder were incompatible, just like fire and water. This profound mysteries of thunder were of no use to him. "Idiot, I don't want it any more." "Deal." The divine bird cried out and even helped Yao Yen clinch the deal. Shueihua felt as if he had swallowed a fly. He was truly disgusted. He thought that by angering the Thunder King would pay a high price for the profound mysteries of thunder. However, he did not expect that he would be disgusted by the person on the fourth floor instead. Ha 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 ha! The hall below burst into laughter. For a profound mystery that he had no use for, he wasted 15 million mid-grade divine crystals. Only Shueihua could do such a stupid thing. Ha ha ha! Lowly bird, you are too lowly. I like it. Long Shui laughed so hard that her face was about to twitch. She kept slamming the table as she spoke. "Stinking girl, if you dare to humiliate this divine bird again, I will sell you off as well," the divine bird said coldly. Long Shui's expression immediately turned unsightly. She quickly stopped laughing and looked out the window unhappily. "Is there anyone else who wants to make a higher bid?" Yao Yen was also amused, covering her mouth as she smiled faintly. Although she knew that no one would be willing to be a spendthrift, she still had to go through the formalities and ask. After asking 3 times, the matter was settled. At Shueihua's place, an old man glared at him and reprimanded. "Idiot! Do you think that our clan's resources come out of the water? 15 million mid-grade divine crystals is enough for the clan's children to cultivate for 3 years. You have wasted all of it." Shueihua glared at room 52 on the 4th floor. He was angry, but he did not dare to say anything. He did not know who the person on the 4th floor was. If it was some powerful prefecture master and he dared to curse, the other party could slap him to death. The room on the 4th floor looked very clear from the outside. However, from the outside one could not see what was inside at all. The Thunder Sovereign smiled. Although he was upset that he did not obtain the Thunder Profound Mystery, seeing the Shui clan so angry made him feel very happy. Yao Yin smiled like a flower. The first treasure was successfully auctioned off. Although the credit did not go to her, the price far exceeded her expectations. After bidding for about 5 million medial-grade divine crystals, she began to take out the second treasure. Peak grade 10 defensive armor. This was the best treasure for a junior. It was not something that only inferior god worshippers would bid for. Peak grade 10 defensive armor, heavenly silkworm clothes. It can withstand a full-powered attack from a medial-grade god worshipper. I will not talk about its effect. Everyone is smart and should understand the value of this clothing. The starting price is 100,000 medial-grade divine crystals. Yao Yen took out a silver-white soft clothing. It was very beautiful and looked very suitable for girls. Long Shui took a fancy to this heavenly silkworm clothes at first glance. She clenched her fists, wanting to bid for it. The divine bird looked at the 3 people in the room provocatively and said proudly, "Do you believe that I can obtain it at a low price? Or I can cheat that fake again?" Yi Qinghan and Si Luo could not be bothered to argue. This kind of clothing was useless to them. If they could obtain it, the inner sect people could use it. If they could not, they would not force it. Therefore, they did not bother with the divine bird. However, Long Shui was excited. She said flatteringly, "Divine bird, I only have 300,000 medial-grade divine crystals. Help me buy this divine clothing." The divine bird looked at Long Shui as if she was an idiot. He said angrily, "I said the starting price, but I did not say 300,000. However, the divine bird still quickly shouted out the price. His voice was very strange and made people shudder. "I will bid 300,000. The voice was still the same voice. It was still the guy from the 4th floor who almost cheated Shueihua to death. When Shueihua heard that, he was enraged. Just as he was about to stand up and shout out the price, the old man beside him slapped him on the shoulder, causing him to tremble. "You'd better behave yourself. If you dare to cause trouble again, I will definitely report it to the family head," the old man said coldly. Shueihua did not dare to shout out the price. Everyone was waiting for him. Unexpectedly, no one competed with the divine bird. They were all afraid that the divine bird would cheat them again. It was too despicable for an existence from the 4th floor to cheat others like this. Is there anyone who wants to bid higher? This is a top-grade 10th grade divine clothing, the heavenly silkworm clothing. It came from the hands of the ancient blacksmith, Lord Mo Xie. It is the only defensive divine clothing. It is clearly worth more than 300,000, Yao Yen explained. Hey! Little beauty, you are misleading others. You are making this divine bird unhappy," the divine bird cried out in a strange voice. No one knew that the person speaking in booth 52 was actually a bird. Even Yao Yen was startled by this strange voice. She quickly explained, "Fellow Taoist above, please do not misunderstand. This is not misleading. I am just telling everyone about the origin of this divine clothing. Alright, seeing that you are pretty good-looking, this divine bird will not bicker with you," the divine bird said arrogantly. Yi Qinghan shook his head. He would let this fellow fool around for now. Perhaps it would be more convenient for him to shout out the price later on. There would not be any trouble. In the end, everyone was afraid of being cheated by the divine bird. The heavenly silkworm clothing was bought by the divine bird. 300,000 mid-grade divine clothing was not something that could be bought normally. "You are too awesome, divine bird. It really is the divine bird," Long Shui said excitedly. "Tisk tsk, it's too early for you to be happy. This divine bird did not buy this robe for you, it's for someone else. You go play on the side, Who would dare to kill the princess of the Western Garrison Prefecture? The divine bird did not hesitate to reject Long Shui. Long Shui immediately felt as if she had fallen into an ice cave. She curled her lips and looked at the divine bird with dissatisfaction. Yi Qinghan smiled bitterly and quickly said, "Forget it. Give it to her. I know you want to give it to Yun'er. However, she is in the endless plains. She should not be in any danger. She has no need for this clothing." Long Shui's face immediately lit up with joy. Looking at the divine robes being delivered, she quickly rushed out to greet them. This time, everyone clearly saw that Long Shui was actually in private room 52. The person inside must have a great relationship with the Western Garrison. Chapter 629. Long Shui got what she wanted. However, the divine bird insisted on buying the divine robe for 300,000 divine spirit stones, for 300,000 divine spirit stones. In the end, Long Shui paid the price of 300,000 medial-grade divine crystals to obtain the heavenly silk robe. She could not wait to try it on. With a strange divine bird like the divine bird around, the things it did not want could always rip off a layer of skin. Regardless of whether one liked it or not, it would always raise the price. Furthermore, when it raised the price, it would change its tone. Someone would get angry and become the scapegoat. Yao Yen did not know whether to thank Booth 52 or feel angry. The divine bird bought all the good things at low prices. The ordinary things were sold to others at high prices. Booth 52 became the target of everyone. Many people looked at the fourth floor angrily. Even some prefecture master-level experts were curious about the identity of the person in the booth. After several hundred rank 5 items were auctioned off, the divine bird remained quiet for a while. Everyone felt somewhat uncomfortable, feeling like they were masochistic. They could not help feeling disgusted. Soon, some of the ordinary divine treasures were almost sold out. The treasures that appeared later were very valuable. They were either 12th rank divine skills or 12th rank divine weapons. Heavenly materials and earthly treasures were all top-notch, which attracted the crazy bidding of the crowd. However, the fourth floor remained deathly silent, even somewhat disappointed. Yao Yen looked at the items on the auction list and casually called over a strong medial-grade god priest. Then, she said indifferently, "Bring this up. This will be the next item." The medial-grade god priest bowed slightly before leaving. Soon, a prefecture master-level expert carried a brocade box over and placed it on the auction platform. Then, he retreated behind Yao Yen. However, he did not leave. Instead, he chose to guard this item. It looked like it was worth a lot. The mood on the fourth floor finally stirred. Many people sat up straight and looked down at the hall. Yao Yen took a sip of spirit tea and looked at the crowd. Then, she said, "The next supreme treasure is the fiend dragon's blood, a true ancient dragon bloodline. It is a heaven-defying existence that can change an expert's bloodline. It can even kill a medial-grade god priest with a weak physical body. There is only one drop of essence blood, but it contains supreme power. The owner of the fiend dragon's blood cannot use it and can only auction it. There is only one drop. If you miss it, you might never get it again." Damn! Who is selling this? How freaking extravagant! If he refined this drop of dragon blood, he would possess the bloodline of the ancient colossal dragon tribe. This is the legendary chief god's bloodline. Don't be envious. How can an ordinary person enjoy such a bloodline? Haven't you heard? Even a god at the middle extreme Tao could be killed by the energy contained in this drop of blood. Even if we buy it, we might not be able to use it. The people in the main hall were discussing fervently, but they also felt that it was a pity. This drop of dragon blood was clearly prepared for the manor lord on the fourth floor. At this moment, Yi Qinghan was not the only one who was shocked and tempted. Startled cries came from all the private rooms. This was especially so for the first private room. Someone clearly stood up and opened the window, staring at Yao Yen. The atmosphere of the entire auction hall turned strange. The Western Garrison Liege Lord also stood up, protecting Yao Yen. The two manor heads were personally protecting her, fearing that she would be robbed. Yi Qinghan gently summoned the 7-foot berserk hammer and stood up slowly. He clenched the hilt of his saber tightly and looked coldly at the main hall. This drop of dragon blood had caused the dragon blood in his body to boil and almost burn. Yao Yan's aura changed and she said coldly, "The starting bid will be settled with high-grade divine crystals. The starting bid will be 300,000 high-grade divine crystals. If the auction house finds out that anyone who does not have so many divine crystals and is still bidding recklessly, they will be making an enemy out of the Holy Dragon Divine Kingdom. For such a person, no matter where he comes from, he can forget about leaving the Western Garrison Prefecture." High-grade divine crystals. 300,000 high-grade divine crystals. Yi Qinghan frowned. Not to mention 300,000 high-grade divine crystals. He did not even have a single high-grade divine crystal. However, this drop of colossal dragon blood essence was too tempting for him. He had the bloodline of the dragon tribe. If he obtained this drop of blood essence, it would be equivalent to increasing the power of his 5 elemental Tao body by several times. Only the heavens knew how powerful he would become. He could only seek help from the 9 Serenities Master. Yi Qinghan's eyes narrowed. He was determined to obtain this drop of blood essence. He took out his golden life token and continuously infused it with his divine power, hoping to alarm the 9 Serenities Master. Indeed, the 9 Serenities Master was quite concerned about Yi Qinghan. After a while, the golden life token shone brightly, and a voice rang out in Yi Qinghan's mind. "Why are you calling me again? Can't the Azura help you solve your problem?" The 9 Serenities Master asked unhappily. "Master, lend me some high-grade divine crystals. I need them urgently," Yi Qinghan said hurriedly. "You actually took the initiative to call me master. Looks like you're in big trouble. Tell me, how many high-grade divine crystals do you need? Of course, I'm not giving them to you for free. You have to return them. After all, I'm not in the mythical realm. I can only contact a fellow cultivator and ask him to send some to you. You can return them to him when the time comes." The 9 Serenities Master was in a good mood. Seeing Yi Qinghan take the initiative to compromise was sweeter than eating honey. Cough, cough. "Lend me 5 million high-grade divine crystals. I'll return them to him as soon as possible." Yi Qinghan coughed dryly. 5 million high-grade divine crystals was not a small sum. Even the divine masters of the divine kingdoms would think about it for a long time. However, since the 9 Serenities Master had asked for it, it should not be a problem to borrow 5 million high-grade divine crystals, right? 5 million high-grade divine crystals? Are you trying to buy a small plane? The 9 Remoteness Lord asked in a very displeased tone, glaring at Long Chen with rage. "I have a drop of giant dragon blood essence at the auction house of the West Garrison Mansion. It's enough for me to change my body constitution. There are many other treasures after that. I want to buy them all. So, Master, you must help me this once. You're the 9 Serenities Master, so you must know some super beings. You should be able to fork out these few divine crystals, right?" Yi Qinghan was going all out in order to borrow divine crystals. High-grade divine crystals are not jelly beans. You can ask for them whenever you want. 5 million. All right, I'll ask around. I'll send you at least 3 million in the time it takes for 3 incense sticks to burn. You can buy time on your own. The 9 Serenities Master thought for a moment and then cut off the connection. Inside the auction house, everyone was looking at the 4th floor in a frenzy. The people on the 4th floor were fighting. That was the most exciting thing. In the first box, it was obvious that the people from God's organization were there. A deacon of God's organization and a powerful prefecture master. There were 4 of them. In order to intimidate the others, they all stood up and told everyone that this drop of dragon blood was theirs. It seemed like this drop of dragon blood had been advertised countless times by the auction house. This time, not only were the upper echelons of God's organization present, even the upper echelons of the 3 divine colleges, the upper echelons of the 3 divine kingdoms, and some of the top overlords were present. Ordinary prefecture masters would not dare to compete with these overlords because they represented the superior gods behind them. They were here to buy the dragon blood. You want to compete? Silo was astonished. The starting price was 300,000 high-grade spirit crystals. Perhaps it could go up to 2 million. Even a divine kingdom would feel the pinch if they took out so many high-grade spirit crystals at once. Only a superior god priest could afford it. Yi Qinghan was just a newly risen prefecture master. Where did he get so many high-grade spirit crystals? Of course. Otherwise, how could I compete with God's organization? Yi Qinghan snorted. He put away his berserk mode and stepped out of the room. He was dressed in black and his bamboo hat covered his face completely. No one could see through his identity. Clearly, he did not want to compete with God's organization for the dragon blood. When Western Garrison Liege Lord saw Yi Qinghan walking out, he immediately frowned and quickly reminded him, "Fellow Taoist Yi, you don't have any high-grade spirit crystals. Don't bid. Otherwise, this old man will be in a difficult position." Yi Qinghan looked at Western Garrison Liege Lord indifferently and replied, "Prefecture Master Long, you don't need to worry. I will have enough high-grade spirit crystals in 3 incense sticks of time. It will be enough to buy this drop of dragon blood. Can we begin?" Yao Zilong, the deacon of God's organization, asked in a deep voice. Yao Zilong was a prefecture master of the older generation. To be able to become a deacon of God's organization meant that his battle prowess was close to the peak of the consummate level. He was already half a step away from becoming a higher god. All he lacked was opportunity. His words represented his supreme will. Western Garrison Liege Lord and the others felt the pressure increase by several times. The space and time of the entire auction house seemed to have frozen. "Why are you in such a hurry? This drop of dragon blood won't be able to escape." Yi Qinghan took a step forward and walked into the corridor. He just so happened to be standing across from Yao Zilong. The two of them looked at each other and sparks flew in their eyes. Ling Tian's will suppressed Yi Qinghan's, and the bamboo hat on his body could not withstand the ravaging of Yao Zilong's will. It immediately exploded, revealing his vigorous face. "It's him. It's Yi Qinghan." Many people recognized Yi Qinghan and cried out in alarm. They did not expect that this person who dared to challenge God's organization would actually appear at this auction house. Fortunately, every tile and every piece of wood in this auction house had been specially crafted and had been sealed with a secret divine restriction by a higher god. Otherwise, they would not have been able to withstand Yao Zilong's aura. Yi Qinghan gripped the railing of the corridor with both hands. His facial muscles were contorted and blood spurted out. With his current strength, he could not contend against Yao Zilong. He could not even withstand his opponent's aura. Roar. Yi Qinghan was enraged. He directly summoned Berserk. A saber light tore through space and time, colliding with Yao Zilong's aura. However, he was still forced back several steps. Yao Zilong snorted in disdain and coldly said, "It's you again, brat. You don't know the difference between life and death. Today, this old man has matters to attend to, so I won't bicker with you. This has nothing to do with you. Scram into your box. If you dare to come out again, I'll break your legs." Yi Qinghan's face was ashen. Yao Zilong was simply too powerful. Moreover, his 5 elements were not stable right now. His combat strength was far inferior to a palace master of this level. He was simply not a match for him. Treasures belong to those who have the money. Why does it have nothing to do with me? Could it be that you want to rely on your strength to snatch it? I can bid as long as I have divine crystals. Aren't your methods a little too overbearing? Yi Qinghan coldly replied. Ha 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 ha. What a great, those who have the money will get it. My God's organization has enough high-grade divine crystals to crush you to death. You're just a puny palace master who has just risen up. Do you even have high-grade divine crystals? You dare to arrogantly claim that you have the money in front of this old man? Overbearing? My God's organization has the capital to be overbearing. Yao Zilong laughed and mocked. At this moment, many people laughed. It was especially so for the palace master-level experts on the 4th floor. They represented the high god temple and understood what the price of 300,000 high-grade divine crystals represented. It meant that other than the 3 great divine academies, the 3 great divine kingdoms, God's organization, and some other overlords, no one else had the qualifications to bid. Even if Yi Qinghan had high-grade divine crystals, it was impossible for him to take out 300,000. Even if he could take out 300,000, he still wouldn't have the qualifications to bid. The person who came from Tian Ke Divine Academy was the dean of a department. He had a noble status and was incomparably dignified. At this moment, he looked coldly at Yi Qinghan and said indifferently, "Little brat, just because you have some talent, you dare to compete with everyone in the world. Didn't your elders teach you how to be a proper person? This old man has lived in the mythical plane for a long time and has seen countless geniuses. They were much stronger than you, but in the end they all fell because of their arrogance. With your talent, you don't even have the qualifications to be arrogant. I advise you to be more honest and be a stable palace master. In any case, you won't be in this position for long." Black lines appeared on the foreheads of the people from the Holy Dragon Divine Kingdom. It was fine if Yi Qinghan was a little arrogant, but to participate in the bidding for the giant dragon bloodline was too much. It felt like he was courting death. Chapter 630. Yi Qinghan looked at the crowd's attitude and was puzzled. Was participating in the bidding arrogance? Tisk, tsk, a bunch of snobs. Isn't it just divine crystals? This divine bird has always been one to eat and throw away. Come, let's start the bidding. This divine bird wants to see who can compete with my master. The divine bird was furious. This group of people was too arrogant. They relied on their strength and the power behind them to act like this. It was as if they were the only ones who had the right to enjoy the treasures. The faces of many manor heads turned ashen. Everyone finally understood that the one who was playing with the crowd was none other than this lowly bird. Shueihua was enraged. He pointed at the divine bird and roared, "F*ck your ancestors. So it was you who cheated me of 15 million mid-grade divine crystals." The divine bird squatted on Yi Qinghan's shoulder and grinned. "F*ck you. What a hardcore bastard. You won't even let off a bird." Hua. The entire auction house burst into laughter, mocking Shueihua for asking for trouble and playing with the devouring divine parrot. The Shui clan's elder was so angry that his body was trembling. He wanted nothing more than to slap Shueihua away so that he wouldn't be mocked here. A famous expert on the wind cloud list, an existence ranked 17th, had actually become a laughing stock here. The younger generation couldn't help but sneer. It turned out that the so-called experts on the wind cloud list were nothing more than this. Alright, everyone. As long as you have divine crystals, you can participate in the bidding. No one is allowed to intimidate other fellow Taoists. Western Garrison Liege Lord didn't want to embarrass Yi Qinghan too much, so he spoke up. Then this old man wants to see if this so-called crazy manor head has the qualifications to participate in the bidding with 300,000 high-grade divine crystals. Han Mang mocked as he followed beside the Tian Ke Divine College's dean. "If I had the qualifications to bid, what would you do?" Yi Qinghan asked indifferently. Kneel down and apologize in front of everyone? Do you dare? If you don't dare, don't speak. This divine bird feels embarrassed. A great teacher of the Tian-Ke Divine College only knows how to talk big. The divine bird dragged the Tian-Ke Divine College into the matter again, causing the dean's face to turn ashen. My Tian-Ke Divine Academy has existed for several eras in the mythological plane. How can it be blasphemed by a lowly person like you and a feathered beast? Do you think you're qualified to make a grand teacher of the Divine College kneel and apologize? Man who, the dean of the Divine College, warned. Then can your great teacher of the School of Divinity speak without thinking and humiliate others as you wish? Or is it that the Tian-Ke Divine Academy has always been tyrannical and doesn't put anyone in their eyes? Yi Qinghan asked angrily. At this moment, someone finally voiced out in support of Yi Qinghan. It wasn't the royal family of the Holy Dragon Divine Kingdom, but the Heavenbreaker Academy and the Origami Academy. The three academies competed with each other, and their relationship had always been bad. Once they saw an opportunity to suppress each other, they would definitely make a move. I feel that Dao friend Yi Qinghan is right. Regardless of whether he has the qualifications to bid or not, Tian-Ke Divine Academy shouldn't humiliate him, right? Dao friend Shi Yuchuan, do you think my words are reasonable? Grand Venerable Xiuan, the Dean of the Origami Academy's refining department, said lightly. Shi Yuchuan was naturally the Dean of the Heavenbreaker Academy. When he saw Man Hu and Han Shua's ugly expressions, he immediately said, "The whole world is watching. As a great teacher of the Divine College, use your brain when you speak. You're a role model, but you're doing something worse than a whore. You're a disgrace to the Divine College." This time, the Tian-Ke Divine College had lost all of its face, especially Man Gu, who was fuming with anger. His sage-like face had turned purple. The three divine colleges had actually started a fight. God's organization didn't want to interfere, and the three divine kingdoms didn't want to either. After all, the three divine kingdoms had nurtured countless experts over the years. Perhaps even the big shots of God's organization had received favors from the divine college. Cough, cough. Fellow cultivators, this is an auction house. If you have any personal grudges, please settle them after the auction ends and after we leave the Western Garrison Prefecture. Today is an auction. Can you give me some face? Yao Yen said in a crisp voice with a gentle smile. When a beauty spoke, everyone was willing to give her face. Everyone quieted down. After this quarrel, the time it took for an incense stick to burn passed. However, there were still 2 incense sticks left. Did the auction of dragon blood need 2 incense sticks? Yi Qinghan was extremely anxious. In the 9 Serenities realm, the 9 Serenities Master directly used a powerful plane projection technique and projected a clone into the forbidden area of the Holy Dragon Divine Kingdom. The terrifying pressure instantly woke up the old monsters who were in seclusion. Whoosh! A mighty divine aura caused a heaven-defying divine light to shine in the forbidden area. An old, turbid pair of eyes suddenly opened. Looking at the phantom in the sky, he was shocked and asked, "Senior 9 Serenities, how come you have the time to come to this kid's place?" The 9 Remoteness Lord had lived for far too long. He had comprehended the cycle of reincarnation, and although he wasn't an overgod, he was immortal and indestructible. Even the old freaks of the theocracy would have to address him as a senior. The 9 Serenities Master said indifferently, "Xiaolong, this old man has taken in a disciple. He's currently in the Divine Kingdom's West Garrison and is lacking some high-grade divine crystals. Help me deliver some. This old man owes you a favor." Long Yuan, who had existed in the world for more than 1,000,000 years and was called Xiaolong by others, was flattered. It wasn't good to owe the 9 Serenities Master a favor. Which high god priest in the entire Middle Plane didn't want the 9 Serenities Master to owe them a favor? Senior 9 Serenities, this Xiaolong is too kind. Please tell me how much you need. I'll deliver it personally. Long Yuan was extremely old and was about to depart. Even high god priests couldn't live forever. 2 million years was the end of their lifespan. He didn't have much time left. Between 3 to 5 million. Don't touch the Divine Kingdom's foundation. I can't afford it if it affects the fortune. The 9 Serenities Master said indifferently. His name is Yi Qinghan. Don't tell the world that he's my disciple. He needs to walk his own path in life. Don't interfere. Long Yuan quickly nodded and said, Senior, don't worry. This Xiaolong won't interfere. When does he need it? Deliver it to him within the time it takes for an incense stick to burn. After that, come to the 9 Serenities land. The 9 Serenities Master waved his hand and disappeared from the forbidden area. Long Yuan was so excited that his body trembled. His lifespan was approaching. If he could receive the 9 Serenities Master's guidance, he would definitely be able to break through. Soon, Long Yuan came out of seclusion and took away 4 million high-grade divine crystals. Even the divine masters were shocked. More than half of the divine crystals in the Divine Kingdom's treasury had been taken away. If he took away more, it would threaten the Divine Kingdom's foundation. They couldn't understand why the old ancestor was so excited to take away so many divine crystals. Long Yuan was a high god priest. His divine sense instantly covered the entire Divine Kingdom. In a flash, he appeared in the sky above the Western Garrison Prefecture. At this moment, the price in the auction house had exceeded 1 million. Many experts had given up. 1 million high-grade divine crystals. It was an astronomical number. If converted to low-grade divine crystals, it was enough to bury an entire prefecture alive. Yi Qinghan was also anxious. He still couldn't make a bid because he didn't have any high-grade divine crystals on hand. 1,300,000 high-grade divine crystals. God's organization called out a high price again. They were determined to get the dragon blood. The 3 divine academies fell silent. It wasn't worth spending so many high-grade divine crystals for a single drop of dragon blood. Moreover, the highest price that the experts behind them had given had already been exceeded. Yao Yin was excited. Many people had predicted that the price would be 1 million. Now it was 300,000 high-grade divine crystals. It was already very good. However, she still looked at Yi Qinghan. When she saw the sweat on Yi Qinghan's forehead, she couldn't help but ask, Fellow Taoist, do you still want to bid? If no one makes a bid, this drop of dragon blood will be settled. Even I can't afford it. Do you still expect a brat to be able to afford it? Man who said coldly. Yao Zilong said disdainfully, as long as he can take out 1,300,000 high-grade divine crystals, I will give the dragon blood to him. Yi Qinghan could no longer suppress the evil fire in his heart. He wasn't willing to give up, so he immediately said, Since Senior is so generous, then send the dragon blood upstairs. Send it upstairs and I'll give you 1,300,000 high-grade divine crystals. Yi Qinghan was betting. He was betting that the 9 Remoteness Master's friend would appear in the next moment and send the divine crystals to him. Arrogant and despotic. Do you take me for a fool? Yi Qinghan, you have angered me. I will kill you on the spot. Yao Zilong scolded angrily. At this moment, even Yao Yen felt that Yi Qinghan was going overboard. If he wanted the dragon blood, he would have to take out high-grade divine crystals. Now that he was bragging, she was unhappy. Swish! Just as Yao Zilong called out Yi Qinghan's name, the world suddenly stopped. This place became the territory of a supreme god, and everything stopped. However, everything returned to normal in an instant. Everyone felt that they had missed something. However, Yi Qinghan didn't feel that way. This was because a yin and yang ring had appeared in his hand. A drop of blood essence entered the yin and yang ring. When he checked it with his divine sense, a smile appeared on his face. With high-grade divine crystals, he felt more confident. He looked at Yao Yen and said, "Why don't fellow Taoist personally check if I have 1,300,000 high-grade divine crystals? However, bring the dragon blood up while you're at it. I believe that an executive of God's organization wouldn't go back on his word." Yao Zilong suddenly had a bad premonition. Yi Qinghan was too calm. He couldn't be joking or acting cool at this moment. Could it be that Yi Qinghan really had 1,300,000 high-grade divine crystals? The 3 divine academies had already given up. How could Yi Qinghan have so many divine crystals? Yao Yan's fingertips trembled as she looked at Yi Qinghan's calm face and deep eyes. Surprisingly, she chose to believe Yi Qinghan. The Western Garrison Liege Lord looked at Yi Qinghan and nodded to Yao Yan. Then, he and the other manor master personally escorted Yao Yan to the 4th floor. "Wait, Yi Qinghan, are you sure you want to fight with this old man?" Yao Zilong asked coldly as he looked at Yi Qinghan threateningly. "What's wrong? You don't dare to make a bet with me? If you don't have the guts, then don't say such big words. At most, we can just bid again. I might not lose to you." Yi Qinghan kept feeling that someone was watching him. It might be the person who gave him the yin and yang rings. Hence, he was not afraid that Yao Zilong would fall out with him. At most, he would fight. Yao Zilong was angered by Yi Qinghan's attitude. He glared at Yi Qinghan and said sinisterly, "Very well. This old man always keeps his word. If you take out 1,300,000 high-grade divine crystals, this drop of dragon blood is yours." Yao Zilong mocked in his heart, "Even if you can take out 1,300,000 high-grade divine crystals, you won't be alive to enjoy the dragon blood after obtaining it. You are truly seeking death." Chapter 631. The 2 mansion masters personally escorted Yao Yan to private room 52. Yao Yan stared at Yi Qinghan and their eyes met. Yi Qinghan stretched out his hand, and his universe ring flashed as he handed over 1,300,000 high-grade divine crystals to Yao Yan. Yao Yan was shocked. She did not expect Yi Qinghan to have so many high-grade divine crystals. She could not help but wonder why Yi Qinghan did not bid earlier and instead made a bet with Yao Zilong. Could it be that he was afraid of competing with Yao Zilong and raised the price even higher? Both sides have enmity. If he bid in a fit of pique, he could really raise the price to 2 million high-grade divine crystals. Yao Yan misunderstood Yi Qinghan. At that time, Yi Qinghan really did not have a single high-grade divine crystal. Han Guo and Man whose expressions changed. If Yi Qinghan really had 1,300,000 high-grade divine crystals, it would be a slap to their faces. Han Guo had said that Yi Qinghan did not have a single high-grade divine crystal. In the end, Yi Qinghan took out 1,300,000 high-grade divine crystals, which was even more than what they had brought. This was equivalent to a country bumpkin mocking a millionaire for being poor. Congratulations to Mansion Master Yi for obtaining the dragon blood. Yao Yan looked deeply at Yi Qinghan. She felt that like a pet, like a master. Both of them knew how to cheat others. Yao Zilong had obtained the dragon blood with great difficulty. Now, he was giving it away. Only he knew how sullen he felt. Yao Zilong took a deep breath, feeling as though his head was about to explode. The elder of God's organization had told him to buy this drop of dragon blood at all costs. Yi Qinghan kept the dragon blood and turned around to return to his room. He did not want to look at Yao Zilong's murderous expression. "I want to see the divine crystals. He gave you 1,300,000 high-grade divine crystals." Yao Zilong seemed to be a little hysterical. He did not believe that Yi Qinghan had so many divine crystals. Yao Yan frowned. This was the first time she had seen an expert so hysterical. She did not even care about her face anymore. She immediately said, "I have never met Manor Lord Yi before. Could it be that fellow Taoist Yao thinks that I would collude with others to deceive you? Yao Zilong's breathing turned sluggish. Only then did he realize that he had lost his composure. There was no benefit in offending Yao Yen. This woman's followers could already form a huge army. Humph! Unreasonable! Yao Yen flicked her sleeves and left the booth. Then, she returned to the great hall and said coldly, "Continue the auction. If you feel that I am being unfair, you can leave now. I will not hold you back." The people in the hall all agreed, expressing their goodwill to Yao Yen. This time, Yao Zilong's expression turned even more unsightly than before. Yao Zilong glared fiercely at room 52 and thought to himself, "You forced me to kill you. Do you think you can refine the dragon's blood essence just because you obtained it? Even if I do, I can still suck your blood dry and refine the colossal dragon blood essence back." The auction continued. Yi Qinghan and Cairo exchanged glances and smiled. With such hatred, even if they made the other party feel disgusted, it was still an indescribable pleasure. "There are divine crystals. Buy whatever you like. Don't stand on ceremony," Yi Qinghan said straightforwardly. Cairo did not understand where Yi Qinghan's divine crystals came from. However, he could roughly guess. Someone who could silently send divine crystals over had to be a superior god. Next up is the auction for the primal chaos heavenly lotus seed. After the Venerable's appraisal, we know that these 5 primal chaos heavenly lotus seeds do not have much chance of germinating. However, the profound laws within them are still there. The auction price will be adjusted to 50,000 superior grade divine crystals. Each bid must not be lower than 1,000 superior grade divine crystals. Yao Yan's melodious voice rang out again, breaking the awkward atmosphere in the auction house. 55,000 superior grade divine crystals. Yi Qinghan called out the price without hesitation, brimming with the aura of a tycoon. He had just thrown out 1,300,000 superior grade divine crystals, and now he opened his mouth to bid 50,000 superior grade divine crystals. These were superior grade divine crystals, not ordinary medial grade divine crystals or inferior grade divine crystals. This time, everyone was shocked. Yi Qinghan was simply too rich. Even Yao Yen stared at room 52 with her mouth agape. Where did this Yi Qinghan come from? Where did he get so many superior grade divine crystals? Damn! This is already more than 1,350,000 superior grade divine crystals. Even the Scandinavian nation would feel the pinch if they took out so much, right? Exclamations rang out in the hall, and everyone forgot about the auction. Could this fellow have dug out a superior grade divine crystal mine? The Western Garrison Liege Lord understood Yi Qinghan's accumulations. The crazy manor was the poorest manor. It could not take out so many divine crystals. Yao Zilong wanted to kill Yi Qinghan. He would not bid on anything that Yi Qinghan bought. In his opinion, Yi Qinghan was buying it for him. There was no need to waste divine crystals. The people on the 4th floor were not interested in the primal chaos heavenly lotus seed. The people on the 3rd floor and below did not want to compete with Yi Qinghan. Competing with such a tycoon for supreme treasures was simply asking for trouble. They might even offend him. No one is bidding? Yao Yen felt depressed for a long time. However, no one raised the price. Even God's organization's first room did not bid. This should not be happening. 55,000 going once. 55,000 going twice. Yao Yen was speechless. She continuously scanned the 4th floor, hoping for someone to bid. Unfortunately, she was disappointed. 55,000 going thrice. Sold. Congratulations to Manor Lord Yi for purchasing 5 Primal Chaos Heavenly Lotus Seeds at the lowest price. Yao Yen said with a bitter smile. Many thanks. Just bring them up, Yi Qinghan said indifferently. Soon, a middle-ranked god priest walked up with the primal chaos heavenly lotus seed and withdrew 55,000 superior-grade divine crystals. Yi Qinghan also gave him 100 medial-grade divine crystals as a tip. The middle-ranked god priest walked down with a smile. 100 medial-grade divine crystals was already quite a lot. After that, more than a dozen treasures were auctioned off. Some were priced at mid-grade, and some were even priced at low-grade divine crystals. There were also some that were priced at high-grade divine crystals. The total value exceeded 100,000 high-grade divine crystals, but Yi Qinghan monopolized all of them. He didn't give anyone face. How stubborn! He spent more than 100 million inferior-grade divine crystals, 30 million medial-grade divine crystals, and 80,000 superior-grade divine crystals. This fellow is not a prince in disguise, right? Nonsense. Not to mention a prince, even a divine master might not be willing to use so many divine crystals to buy so many treasures. Everyone was going crazy. Yi Qinghan did not give anyone a chance. It was as if he wanted to take away all the auction items to equip his insane manor army. Long Shui stared at Yi Qinghan in shock. She felt that this fellow was not only aloof but also a rich tycoon. He was not lustful and was simply the best in the world. On the first day, Yi Qinghan swept through the second half of the auction and took away countless treasures. He spent a total of 1.5 million superior-grade divine crystals. On the auction house's dome, Long Yuan was still standing in the sky. No one had noticed his arrival. At this moment, his hair was white and he had the demeanor of an immortal. His eyes were full of wisdom and his turbid eyes were unfathomable. Long Shan, it's me, the Patriarch. Long Yuan found the Sacred Dragon Divine Kingdom's private room across the auction house and transmitted his voice to a middle-aged royal family expert. Long Shan trembled. There was only one person in the royal family who dared to call himself the Patriarch. He had been in seclusion for nearly 10,000 years, and had not appeared. He walked to the window and patrolled several times, but he could not find Long Yuan's hiding place. Don't look for me. I'm on the roof. Listen carefully. I gave Yi Qinghan the superior-grade divine crystals. I want you to protect him well, but do not interfere with his life. Do not tell anyone, including himself. Do you understand? Long Yuan said in a deep voice. Chapter 632. Long Yuan instructed Long Shan and then left quietly. Long Shan finally understood that Yi Qinghan's wealth was a gift from the Patriarch. But he didn't understand. How did the Patriarch know Yi Qinghan when he just left the ancestral land? Even if he knew him, he wouldn't give him millions of high-grade divine crystals. Even if he used more than 1 million divine crystals, he would have to go through the upper echelons of the Kingdom of God's discussion. What's more, he gave millions of high-grade divine crystals to an outsider. Long Shan didn't understand, but he would still protect Yi Qinghan, according to Long Yuan's request, until he grew to the level of a true prefecture master. The first day of the auction ended. Many people were reluctant to leave. After wasting an entire day, they didn't manage to buy a single treasure. The slightly better ones that were useful for the lower-level gods were all snatched away by Yi Qinghan. The 2 experts from Tian-Ke Divine College, and several prefecture, master-level experts from God's organization stared at Yi Qinghan's private room. They wanted to attack immediately, but this was the western garrison of the Holy Dragon Divine Kingdom. If they attacked here, they could forget about leaving. Let's go. I'll see how long he can be arrogant. Yao Zilong flicked his sleeves and left. Everyone left. The 4th floor was empty, leaving only private room number 2 and private room number 52. Private room number 2 naturally belonged to Long Shan and company. Long Shan pushed open the door and Western Garrison Liege Lord personally came forward. He bowed and said, 17th Imperial Uncle, your accommodation has been arranged. It's in the treasure auction house's VIP area. Can we guard the treasures together? And no problem. You must not miss out on the last few treasures. Otherwise, my kingdom of God's foundation will be shaken, Long Shan said in a deep voice. At that moment, Yi Qinghan pushed open the door and Cairo walked out. Long Shui followed beside him. She looked at Long Shan and said delicately, Imperial Grandfather, what do you think of my heavenly silkworm robe? In order to show off this divine robe, Long Shui had already changed into it when Yi Qinghan and Cairo walked out. Now, with a light twirl, it was ethereal and very beautiful. Yes, my Shui is definitely the most beautiful woman. Only you are worthy of this dress. Long Shan had a doting expression on his face. There were many princesses and infanta in the imperial family, but only Long Shui dared to speak to him without restraint. Yi Qinghan nodded kindly at Long Shan. Then, he looked at Lord Jinshi and waited for his arrangement. After all, it was not safe to leave the auction house now. It was better to stay here and guard the treasure together. Headmaster Yi, you should stay as well. Your room is beside 17th Imperial Uncle's. There are 2 rooms. You and this fellow Taoist can have one each. Western Garrison Liege Lord looked at the black-clothed Cairo, but he couldn't recognize Cairo. However, he could feel that Cairo's aura was like a volcano that was about to erupt. It was extremely terrifying and definitely comparable to an ordinary prefecture master. He couldn't help but be shocked. Yi Qinghan nodded and agreed. Then, when he saw Yao Yan staring at him, he could not help but smile and ask, Taoist Yao Yan, can we discuss this in detail? You aren't trying to rope me into the crazy mansion auction house, right? Yao Yan covered her mouth and giggled as she asked rudely. Yi Qinghan shrugged as he blushed slightly. It looked like Yao Yan would not agree. So, he turned and rushed to his room, preparing to refine the dragon blood. Yao Yan's lips twitched as she muttered, he is not sincere at all. Sima Sun looked at Yao Yan indifferently and asked, are you going to go with him just because he is sincere? TSK. Are you going to persuade me to stay? I heard that Emperor Yi is the #1 appraiser in the world. Furthermore, he is the #1 beauty in the world. Of course, I want to go and take a look. If that is true, working with him will definitely be better than working with you. At the very least, a little beauty will be pleasing to the eye, right? Yao Yan mocked without holding back. #1 appraiser in the world? Humph! Shameless boasting. This old man has appraised treasures for countless years, but I do not dare to call myself #1 in the world. What qualifications does she have? It is just a publicity stunt. However, the publicity is too arrogant. This old man does not think that the crazy mansion auction house can develop, Sima Sun said coldly. You are just jealous that a little girl's appraising ability surpasses yours. This young lady is not in the mood to compete with you. Old thing, stubborn. Yao Yan snorted and turned to leave. At this moment, Long Shan did not return to his room. Instead, he stared at the Western Garrison Liege Lord and asked, who is that Yi Qinghan? What is his relationship with the royal family? The Western Garrison Liege Lord was shocked. Without hesitation, he replied, 17th Imperial Uncle, what are you talking about? If he is related to the royal family, would I need to persuade him to submit to the deity's nation? That territory belongs to the deity's nation in the first place. Even now, he is not interested in submitting. It is not like you do not know that. What is his relationship with the royal family? Long Shan's brows furrowed tightly, becoming increasingly confused. At this moment, Yi Qinghan took out a brocade box and gently opened it. There was a jade bottle inside. There was a drop of golden blood in the bottle. It seemed to be very intelligent. At this moment, the blood kept churning, and the horrifying force nearly shattered the specially made bottle. A supreme treasure, a true supreme treasure. Giant dragon blood essence. It was unknown how long it had been preserved, but its energy had not dissipated at all. This drop of blood was enough to kill a mid-level Almighty, unless the Almighty had a strong physical body. The dragon blood in Yi Qinghan's body began to boil. His heart was even more powerful than a dragon's. Dong, dong, dong. Gotcha! Yi Qinghan clenched his fists and took a deep breath. He adjusted his body's condition and opened the seal. The dragon's aura immediately rushed out and covered half of the western garrison liege lord. Whoosh! Boom! In an instant, a horrifying aura rushed into the clouds. It was as if an ancient giant dragon had descended to the world. The pressure was terrifying. Even the prefecture lord felt that his heart was about to stop beating. Those below the prefecture lord felt like they were about to suffocate. However, the dragon's aura disappeared in an instant. It was as if it had never appeared. In an inn, Yao Zilong smashed a table and a chair with his palm. He roared furiously, "Damn Yi Qinghan! He actually swallowed the dragon's blood." At this moment, several prefecture lords from God's organization gathered around and asked, "What do we do?" The great elder specifically said that this drop of blood essence is extremely important to the research. We cannot lose it. If we can't get the dragon's blood, we will definitely be punished. What else can we do? Capture Yi Qinghan and refine his body. Extract the dragon's blood for me, Yao Zilong said angrily. In another inn, the Shui family members had ugly expressions. Disregarding the fact that they had spent 15 million mid-grade spirit stones to buy a useless profound mystery, just the fact that they had offended Yi Qinghan left them powerless. Now that Yi Qinghan had swallowed the dragon's blood and successfully refined it, he would definitely be on par with a prefecture lord. Offending him would not be a good thing. Great uncle. Shueihua wanted to cry but had no tears. Offending the Thunder King wasn't a big deal. After all, he was also someone on the Wind Cloud Decree and was on par with the Thunder King. But offending Yi Qinghan made his hair stand on end. Don't worry. If Yi Qinghan fails to refine the dragon's blood, then all that awaits him is death. If he succeeds, then you can personally deliver the Thunder Profound Mystery to him tomorrow and sell it to him for 10 million mid-grade spirit stones. That won't be offending him, but it also won't be trying to curry favor with him. His grudge with God's organization and God College is enough to slow him down. He won't care about our Shui family. The Shui family old man said in a low voice. The entire West Suppression Prefecture was watching the auction house. Although the dragon's aura had disappeared, a terrifying battle intent soared to the heavens, wanting to reverse yin and yang. The 5 elements roared and wove together, forming 5 heavenly dragons that soared outside the auction house. Yi Qinghan's flesh was torn apart. The dragon blood completely ignored his powerful body, and even his metal origin was torn apart. If it weren't for the 5 elements intertwining with each other, he probably would have been killed by the energy within the dragon blood. His entire body twitched in pain, causing Yi Qinghan's expression to turn hideous. His eyes widened as he dug his fingers into the soft flesh. His god force was instantly drained. The dragon's blood's terrifying energy poured out in torrents, rapidly increasing the 5 elements' purity. He, who had already reached large success in the elements, instantly raised the 5 elements to the Great Circle. The 5 elements' godheads were condensed at the same time. The fire godhead was even more majestic and could erupt at any time, burning the entire West Suppression Prefecture. Yi Qinghan's body was condensed into a true dragon's body. Dragon scales covered his entire body and wriggled in pain and itchiness. Yi Qinghan couldn't stop himself from scratching them. Every time he scratched, some of his flesh would fall off, revealing the dragon's scales. It was a horrifying sight. Yi Qinghan closed his eyes and summoned the berserk force, absorbing the energy from the chaos origin to suppress the dragon's blood. Once the dragon's blood went out of control, his body would explode and he would die. As expected of the giant dragon's bloodline that could kill an extreme mid-level mighty expert. If I didn't have the chaos origin, I would have conquered it today. Yi Qinghan's mind buzzed and veins popped out all over his body. He felt as if he had turned into a giant dragon with inexhaustible energy. He also felt as if his body was going to explode at any time. His limbs, bones, and every corner of his body contained immeasurable energy. "Condense the godheads for me," Yi Qinghan groaned and roared. He mobilized all the energy in his body and started condensing the 5 elements godhead. The 5 elements godheads continued to expand. It wasn't the volume that increased, but the internal space was expanding infinitely. The storage capacity increased by more than 10,000 times. Divine power rushed into the godheads continuously, but the 5 godheads weren't enough to contain the energy in his body. At this moment, Yi Qinghan didn't need to open his eyes. He could even sense the spatial patterns, the 5 elements, the spatial laws. Everything was clearly visible to him. He had a new understanding of the secret techniques that he had previously comprehended. Roar, a deep ancient dragon's roar rushed out from the auction house. It was so loud that no one dared to make a sound within 10,000 miles of the West Garrison Prefecture. Ferocious beasts wailed and knelt down. Even the heavenly Tao fluctuated. Yi Qinghan started condensing the 6th godhead, the dragon's godhead. It contained the power, spirit, and soul of a dragon. In the depths of his consciousness, a godhead stood outside the 5 elements. Divine light intertwined and dragon's power gathered, emitting a powerful dragon's aura. Thump, 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 his strong heartbeat was like a deafening drum. It was so deafening that it was on the verge of collapse. It mobilized the blood and energy of the experts in the auction house. At this moment, Long Shan and the Western Garrison liege lord started cultivating at the same time. The blood in their bodies moved together with Yi Qinghan's heartbeat, and they used the power of the dragon even more accurately. Yao Yen was a little stunned. She understood the dragon's blood. That drop of blood essence couldn't be consumed and condensed without proper preparation. However, Yi Qinghan was different. How long had it been? He had already started to display dragon's aura? Could he be the illegitimate son of someone in the deity's nation? Yao Yen laughed strangely as she guessed Yi Qinghan's true identity. Chapter 633. Yao Yen smiled and guessed that Yi Qinghan was the illegitimate son of some big shot in the Holy Dragon Divine Kingdom. Otherwise, his dragon bloodline would not be so powerful, and he would not be able to suppress the giant dragon's blood essence so easily. However, she did not know how much pain Yi Qinghan had suffered in order to suppress this drop of blood essence. If not for the primal chaos divine source, his body would have exploded and he would have died. For the entire night, Yi Qinghan refined every vein and every piece of flesh in his body. He became stronger, more reserved, and had explosive power. He could punch through a mountain range with a single punch. He had also evolved his 5 elements body to the extreme, and he had advanced to the mid-level god-priest realm. His black hair became black and shiny, reaching down to his waist. Yi Qinghan's vigorous face had a strange charm, like a demon. His eyes shot out golden light and he clenched his fists. His entire body tensed up, and he emitted a lustrous charm. The laws intertwined, and he could automatically defend himself. It would not be a problem for him to block the attack of a low-level god artifact. The next day, Yi Qinghan stood up and took a deep breath. He shook his body and summoned frenzy. At this moment, he felt that he could unleash the full power of frenzy, and it would be easier for him to absorb more of the primal chaos divine source's power. He wanted to fight and pour out all the divine power in his body. The giant dragon bloodline is indeed powerful. It's a pity that I still cannot completely refine it. 30% of the blood essence's power is enough to change my body. Next, I should refine the inheritance within. The inheritance of the giant dragon bloodline and the power of the dragon will definitely be terrifying. Combined with the secret techniques of the dragon race, my battle power should be comparable to an extreme mid-level almighty. If I use the 10 Directions seal and the Primal Chaos Divine Source, I should have no problem defeating the Prefecture Master. Yiching Han's divine senses probed the half-drop of blood essence in his body. It was imprisoned by the 5 elements body at the side of his heart. It contained the inherited memories of the dragon race. As long as he refined it, he would have all the inherited memories of the dragon race. 1,300,000 high-grade divine crystals. It was worth it. Yiching Han was very excited and did not feel the slightest bit of fatigue. He put away the heavy hammer and walked outside. At this moment, the 5 elements were completely in harmony. Looking from the back, it was as if he had become one with the heaven and earth. It was perfect. Silo walked out of the room and looked at Yiching Han from behind. He felt that his strength was rapidly approaching the top 10 of the Wind Cloud leaderboard. Perhaps tomorrow, or perhaps the day after, he would be able to stand shoulder to shoulder with him. He couldn't help but be shocked. Yiching Han's progress was simply too fast. At the same time, Yao Yen, Sima Sun, Long Shan, Western Garrison Liegelord, and several other manor master-level experts walked out of their rooms simultaneously. The moment they saw Yiching Han, they were all stunned. They felt as if they were looking at Yiching Han as if they were looking at the great Tao laws and the 5 elements. Was the blood essence of the colossal dragon really that powerful? They all exclaimed in their hearts as they consoled themselves. Perhaps Yiching Han's cultivation is too weak, which is why there is such an obvious effect. If it were used on us, it probably would not have such a good effect. Little friend Yi, why don't you come to my room tonight to talk? Yao Yen said as she winked at Yiching Han. Yiching Han smiled and replied without hesitation, "No problem. Are you not afraid that I will eat you up?" Yao Yen swayed her slender waist, exuding a charm. Then, she stretched out her hand to hook Yiching Han's chin. Yiching Han raised his right hand slightly and pressed his middle finger against Yao Yan's fingertips, stopping her. Then, he said indifferently, "As long as you are interested, why don't you give it a try? Even a great beauty like you is not afraid. Why should a man like me be afraid? TSK. You are the first man who can remain so calm before me. This little girl is truly interested now." Yao Yen smiled charmingly. Her every move was filled with seduction, a seduction that men could not resist even if they wanted to. Yiching Han remained as calm as still water. He was used to seeing beauties. There was no one in the world that could move his heart more than Emperor Yi. Furthermore, there was Jian Qinshui. At the very least, there was Medusa. There was no need for him to fall head over heels for Yao Yan's insignificant charm technique. Coquettish vixen. Long Shui was dissatisfied. However, she did not dare to say it out loud, only snorting in her heart. Yiching Han shook his head. Perhaps this Yao Yen liked to tease men like this, or perhaps she had other motives. However, he was not interested in either. Hence, he headed straight for private room 52 on the 4th floor. There was a sea of people outside the auction house. Obviously, they were all here for the auction. Meanwhile, the mansion masters had already used a special path to reach the 4th floor and entered their private rooms. When Yiching Han and Siro arrived at private room 52, Yao Zilong and the others opened the windows at the same time and glared at Yiching Han. There was no need to hide the murderous intent in their eyes. Since they all had murderous intent, there was no need to hide it. Yiching Han did not hesitate to sneer and stare back. The corners of his mouth curled up, looking very provocative. His murderous intent overflowed, and his dragon's might was vast and mighty. It was as if he was a natural dragon emperor looking down on all living things. The mansion masters before him no longer had any effect on him. It was impossible for them to use their willpower to repel Yi Qinghan, unless a superior god priest personally came. "Brat, you dare to swallow my supreme treasure! I want you dead!" Yao Zilong's sinister voice reverberated throughout the upper floor. However, it did not reach the people below. "I'm waiting for you to kill me!" Yi Qinghan's deep, vigorous, and mature voice resounded, dispersing Yao Zilong's murderous intent. The atmosphere on the fourth floor became strange and tense. Many people were watching the battle between God's organization and Yi Qinghan. A battle at this level was much more interesting than the battle of ants below. Man who signaled Han Shuo not to interfere. If he interfered at this time, Desolate God College and Broken Firmament College would definitely interfere and beat him while he was down. Yao Zilong knew that he could not hurt Yi Qinghan with his aura alone. He could only helplessly return to his room. At this moment, Long Shan had already walked out of his room and started to be vigilant against him. Cairo looked at Yao Zilong and the others with disdain and turned around to enter his private room. Yi Qinghan followed closely behind. However, Long Shui did not enter today because Western Garrison Liege Lord knew that Yi Qinghan and Yao Zilong's group would definitely quarrel today. It was very likely that a fight would break out. It was too dangerous for Long Shui to stay in the room. The divine bird had benefited from Yi Qinghan's breakthrough and had evolved a little. The feathers on its crown had turned reddish gold, making it look like a general. Soon, Yao Yen announced that the auction would continue. This time, many people were in high spirit. They did not manage to buy anything good yesterday, so they decided to buy as much as they could today. The divine bird opened the window and squatted on top of it, overlooking the hall. It was ready to show off its strength and help Yi Qinghan bid. The first treasure can be upgraded to a divine artifact, Evil Vanquisher. This sword is a grade 12 divine artifact. Once Evil Vanquisher is unsheathed, there will be no evil in the world. It has another name for auspicious signs. With it by your side, you will not have to worry about being invaded by inner demons and will not fall into illusions. This sword can automatically warn you when you encounter danger. Therefore, the starting price is still 100,000 divine crystals. Every bid must not be lower than 10,000 divine crystals. The sky-splitting divine sword appeared in Yao Yan's hand. Even before it was unsheathed, it could already hurt one's soul. It seemed like it could really cut off all evil thoughts in one's body. At this moment, the entire hall was in an uproar. This divine sword was ranked third among the top 10 divine swords in the entire plane. Even the prefecture master loved it so much that he could not bear to part with it. No one could understand why someone would take it out for auction. Chapter 634. Although the vanquishing evil sword was not unsheathed, it already had the will to conquer the heavens. Yao Yen gently unsheathed the sword, and the sword aura cut through space and time. The third-ranked vanquishing evil sword had a special origin. It was said that the one who obtained this sword would obtain the great Tao of the sword. Just this move alone caused everyone to go crazy. There was only one thought in their minds: to obtain this sword. The experts on the fourth floor all nodded in praise. This divine sword was famous in this plane, and it was even famous in other planes. It was the favorite weapon of young kings. The sword was like its name, untamed and untamed. Ordinary people could not subdue it. The divine sword had a spirit, and it could abandon its master. Those who were not fated to obtain it would either be rich or a disaster. Although Yi Qinghan did not use the sword, he still wanted to buy it. On the third floor, a young man with an unrestrained appearance was tapping his fingers on the windowsill. He stared at the vanquishing evil sword without blinking. There was a faint smile on his face. His face was not handsome, but it was flawless. However, there was a faint heroic spirit and unruly aura. His evil smile hid his own stubbornness. He was already immortal. Although he looked ordinary, he was in accordance with the heavenly Tao. In terms of battle prowess, he should be stronger than Cyro. However, how much stronger could only be known when he made a move. Yi Qinghan glanced at him. When he saw the determination and sword intent in his eyes, his pupils shrank. He said to Cyro, "Who is he? He should be in the top 5 of the ranking, right? It's the 4th-ranked Xian Shui. He's evil but not evil. He stands in the middle and acts according to his heart. However, he won't kill the weak and likes to fight the strong. He's challenged all of the top 30 on the ranking list. Except for the top 3, he's won all of them. He loves the great Tao of snow, so he's said to hold a sword in one hand and think of the snow in the heart. When he attacks with his sword, snow will fall down. The light of the snow is invisible, making it impossible for people to dodge." "A bit what?" the divine bird asked curiously. Yi Qinghan was also very curious. He looked at Cyro. "To put it nicely, he is a bit unrestrained and likes to play with experts. To put it bluntly, he is a bit like a divine bird." Cyro thought for a long time but could not think of a way to describe Xian Yanshui. He looked at the parrot and suddenly thought of using a comparison to describe Xian Yanshui's personality. Bulsh *t. "What do you mean by bluntly sounding like me?" "I am handsome, and unrestrained. I look at the heroes of the world. This is called wisdom. Don't speak nonsense if you don't understand," the divine bird angrily retorted. Slow shrugged and did not want to argue with the divine bird. He could not beat it or scold it, so he simply pretended not to hear it. Yi Qinghan smiled. With this comparison, he was able to understand Xie Anikshu's temperament. Xie Anikshu's temperament was similar to the parrot's, but he was different from the divine bird. The divine bird couldn't beat people and could only play tricks. Xie Anikshu, on the other hand, had the strength to play tricks on others. Xian Yanshui. Xie and... It was love at first sight. "I bid 180,000 high-grade divine crystals." Xian Yanshui's voice was low, gentle, and powerful. It echoed in the hall for a long time. "I bid 190,000. I bid 200,000. 230,000. The overlords of the 3rd floor went crazy. Now they had to raise the price so that the people on the 4th floor would feel it was a pity. Only then would they have a share. Xie Anikshu's eyes flashed. He crossed his arms in front of his chest and leaned against the void without any support. He was a bit depressed. So many people were calling out the price at the same time, making him a bit confused. He suddenly snorted and said coldly, "So noisy, you're messing up my head. All of you shut up. I bid 300,000 high-grade divine crystals. I only brought so few high-grade divine crystals. Don't provoke this young master. If you provoke me, Xian Yanshui flipped his hair and pretended to be cool. The female cultivators below screamed, completely ignoring the situation. He was ranked 4th on the wind cloud list. Apart from 3 heavens, he was the strongest. His battle prowess was definitely much stronger than some of the prefecture lords. Most importantly, he was young, rich, and unrestrained. Even when he threatened, Yao Yin only smiled faintly. She did not stop him. "What will happen if I provoke you?" Just when everyone thought that the dust had settled, a cold voice caused everyone on the 4th floor and below to shiver. It was as if they had fallen into an ice cave on a cold winter day. That kind of voice that could directly freeze people's hearts was extremely offensive. The people on the 4th floor looked down and saw an extremely unfamiliar young man at the front of the hall. No, he did not just appear. He had been there all along. It was just that no one paid attention to him. That person looked like he was standing at the front of the hall. This distance should not be much, and they should be able to see him clearly. However, when everyone looked at him, they could not see his face clearly. It was very blurry, and they could not even tell if he was a man or a woman. However, from the way he was dressed, it should be a man. Yi Qinghan also stood up and stood in front of the window. He narrowed his eyes and looked at that person. He was of medium height and had a slender figure. He was dressed in purple clothes, and his hair fell to his shoulders. His slender fingers did not show any signs of sword training. However, he was born with a pair of sword-wielding hands. Looking up, that pair of blurry faces seemed to exist in another space. They could not see through him at all. This was especially true for his eyes, which were as blurry as black holes. Almost all of the prefecture lords looked down, but the result was the same. They could not see through that layer of illusion. They could not see the person's face. Xian Yanxue frowned. This was the first time he had encountered such a person. He was familiar with the top 30 on the wind cloud list, and he was sure that this person was not any one of them. However, he could clearly sense that this person's battle prowess was definitely in the top 5. This person is very strange. I can't even recognize him. I can't see through his illusion either. Silo came to Yi Qinghan's side and said in a low voice. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed coldly. He formed a seal with his palms and circulated the power of the dragon. A golden light shot out from his eyes. The flames burned through the illusion and could see through everything. At this moment, his eyes were no longer the eyes of a human. They were more like the eyes of an ancient demon dragon. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan looked down at the person below again. He could see it so clearly. He did not look at the person's gender. Instead, he looked directly at the person's eyes. Those eyes were of different colors. One of them was blue, while the other was purple. A person with different eyes. Yi Qinghan and the person below looked at each other. Both of their eyes were filled with shock. A bolt of lightning flashed from each of their eyes. They collided in the air, tearing apart space and time. The ear-piercing sound caused many to cover their ears and scream. Some even bled from their orifices and collapsed to the ground, unable to get up. Chapter 635. Yi Qinghan's dragon eyes stared at the pair of strange eyes, and his body trembled. It was as if he had seen another world, and he could not shift his gaze away. The world in those eyes made him feel intoxicated, like a dream. Boom, 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 boom. His dragon blood boiled, and his dragon energy roared. Suddenly, Berserk let out a long roar in his mind, jolting Yi Qinghan awake. Hoo! Yi Qinghan let out a breath of turbid air and narrowed his eyes at the person below. The person with strange eyes was also staring at him, his eyes filled with shock. He did not understand how Yi Qinghan could see through his disguise. This was a disguise personally set up by a superior god. You saw it clearly? Silo found it hard to believe. This kind of situation could only be seen on a superior god. Now, it actually appeared on an unfamiliar young man. It's a woman. Have you heard of people with strange eyes in the mythological plane? A pair of eyes with two different colors. Yi Qinghan was shocked. He could not understand at all why a person's eyes were of different colors. Was this person a human? Silo shook his head. He was a native of the mythological plane, but he had never seen or even heard of people with strange eyes. The person with strange eyes was mainly focused on Yi Qinghan, forgetting to compete for the evil vanquishing sword. However, the others were attracted by the person with strange eyes, forgetting to bid as well. Only Xian Yanxue grinned evilly and kept staring at Yao Yen. Those eyes that could speak seemed to be saying, "Why aren't you announcing the deal?" Yao Yen seemed to be biased. After asking 3 times, she directly announced that the evil vanquishing sword was sold. It could have been sold for 500,000, but Xian Yanxue bought it for 300,000. Only then did the person with strange eyes react. He could not help but angrily glare at Yi Qinghan. If not for Yi Qinghan causing trouble, and using his dragon eyes to see through his disguise, he would not have forgotten to bid for the evil vanquishing sword. Yi Qinghan also felt wrong. He only wanted to see why the person in front of him was so blurry, but he did not expect to discover such a shocking secret. This woman's background was absolutely terrifying. The person behind her must be a superior god, or even more terrifying. Xian Yanxue sheathed her sword and smiled at Yi Qinghan. She seemed to be thanking him, but it was impossible to tell from her evil eyes that she was thanking him. The divine bird had a look of disgust on its face. It always felt that this fellow's eyes were so annoying, making it uneasy. However, it did not know that its own eyes were even more annoying. Humph! A cold snort broke the silence of the auction house. The man with abnormal pupils glared at Yi Qinghan and transmitted his voice. "If you dare expose my identity, I'll break your bones one by one." Yi Qinghan shrugged his shoulders. Women were the hardest to please and could not be offended. He smiled kindly and sent an apologetic voice transmission. "Fairy, please don't be angry. I didn't mean to offend you. I will never reveal your identity." "Then what about my punishing evil sword?" "You have to compensate me with a divine sword of the same level." The man with abnormal pupils pouted. Although she looked a little cold, she was actually very simple-minded and did not have much experience. Yi Qinghan saw through the illusion and saw the face of the person with different pupils. This face seemed to have been carved by a supreme ancient god, and there was not a single blemish on it. This was especially true for those different-colored pupils, which did not seem out of place at all. Instead, he felt that it was very beautiful. He thought to himself, "If we're talking about looks, she probably won't lose to my son. Her innate talent actually makes my hair stand on end. Those eyes are definitely on par with Medusa's eyes, able to kill without leaving a trace." Yi Qinghan was silent for a moment before replying. "I don't have a divine sword of the same level, but if you can provide me with the materials, I can forge one for you. It definitely won't lose to this divine sword. Moreover, you can choose its appearance according to your preference. Isn't it much better than the punishing evil sword? You don't even have a draft for bragging. It can be promoted to a mid-level divine weapon, and it's a top-grade one. Can you forge it?" The man with abnormal pupils snorted and ignored Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed. If he could rope in this man with abnormal pupils, he would not have to worry about the arena competition. He estimated that he would be able to wipe out the entire younger generation of God's organization, not leaving a single one alive. Thinking of this, Yi Qinghan transmitted his voice indifferently. "You'll know if I'm bragging or not. Perhaps I can really forge a divine sword that you like? Then let's try. If you can't forge it, I'll teach you a lesson." The man with abnormal pupils snorted. "Fellow Taoist, don't you feel uncomfortable sitting below and being the center of attention? If you don't mind, there are still some seats in the box. You can sit down and watch the auction. There are still many treasures later," Yi Qinghan said as he moved his finger. Whoosh! The man with abnormal pupils rose from the ground. There was no fluctuation of divine energy at all. He stepped on the air and appeared on the 4th floor, shocking everyone. This man's understanding of the Grand Tao had reached the peak. Although his cultivation level was a bit low, his true combat strength was definitely not inferior to Xian Yanxue, who was ranked 5th on the wind cloud list. Whoosh! Xian Yanxue rushed over and entered the box. Suddenly, there were 4 people ranked in the top 10 on the wind cloud list in the box. When the man with abnormal pupils saw that it was the arrogant Xian Yanxue, he wanted to beat him up, but Yi Qinghan pulled him back. "Fellow Taoists, please calm down. It's just a divine sword. Treasures belong to those who are fated to obtain it. Since fellow Taoist Xie has obtained it, it means that he is fated to obtain it. Fellow Taoist, don't be so stubborn. I'll compensate you in a few months." Yi Qinghan acted as the peacemaker and separated the two. Xian Yanxue looked curiously at Yi Qinghan and Silo. He found that both of them were ranked in the top 10, but he had never seen them before. The divine bird also looked curiously at Xian Yanxue. Clearly, it was preparing to scam him again. "Hey handsome, it's nice to meet you. This divine bird is the spirit-devouring divine parrot who is loved by all. I'm the myriad beast divine emperor who is known by the world as a treasure hunter. Are you interested in finding treasures with me and reaching the peak of the myth realm?" The divine bird said seriously. Xian Yanxue trembled. Looking at the divine bird, he couldn't help but say, "There's actually a divine creature more shameless than me in this world." The divine bird was stunned. He didn't expect Xian Yanxue to evaluate him like this. He even scolded himself. This pair of weirdos were really birds of a feather. When the man with abnormal pupils saw the divine bird, he was also surprised. However, he quickly restrained himself. In terms of rarity, was there anything rarer than the man with abnormal pupils? The bidding continued outside. The atmosphere in the room was strange. The auras of the four experts fluctuated and suppressed each other. Perhaps they were just subconsciously trying to suppress each other. None of them were willing to admit defeat. At this moment, Long Shui sneaked up to the fourth floor. She wanted to see what would happen when the four experts squeezed into a room. She tiptoed and opened the door. Just as she was about to enter, she was sent flying by the four terrifying auras inside. Long Shui screamed miserably. She didn't even have time to resist before she was smashed into the hall. No matter how strong she was still a lower god. However, the four experts here were all middle god priests. Moreover, they were peak existences among their peers. Schwa, Xian Yanshue's reaction was very fast. He was at the door. His figure flashed and he directly hugged Long Shui. His body spun in the air and he jumped up. Chapter 636. Long Shui was stunned. She looked up at Xian Yanshue's unruly smile, and her heart raced. Thump, 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 her twin peaks were the most beautiful scenery in the world. Xian Yanxue laughed evilly and deliberately brushed his hand over her body. Long Shui trembled, and she fell into Xian Yanshue's arms. She couldn't use any strength, and it was as if her godhead had been imprisoned. Long Shui's skin was as white as snow, and she was Xian Yanshue's type. He couldn't help but want to tease Long Shui. His fingertips moved slightly and Long Shui trembled. Xian Yanxue carried Long Shui back to the room. He didn't look at other people's expressions as if the room was his. "Don't stand on ceremony. Sit wherever you want." Xian Yanxue gestured for the three to sit down and put Long Shui beside him. Long Shui stayed where she was, not knowing if she should leave or stay. With Long Shui in the room, her cultivation was too low, and she couldn't withstand the pressure of the four experts. The four of them quieted down and stopped fighting. Thump, 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 the room was so quiet that one could hear Long Shui's heartbeat. She kept her head down and didn't dare to make a sound. The next item is a grade 13 material called Purple God Iron Essence. If you want to refine a grade 13 material, you'll need a divine flame above grade 13. There aren't many people in the entire mythological plane who can refine it, so it's very valuable. Unfortunately, it's very cheap, so the starting price is 50 million mid-grade Purple God Iron Essence. Each bid can't be lower than 1 million mid-grade Purple God Iron Essence, Yao Yin said. 50 million mid-grade Purple God Iron Essence wasn't high. A grade 13 material wasn't easy to find. It was just that very few people could use it, which was why the price was so low. Everyone fell silent. They spent so much mid-grade Purple God Iron Essence, but they couldn't use it. Even though they knew it was a treasure, no one was interested. However, the experts on the fourth floor were still willing to collect it. 50 million mid-grade Purple God Iron Essence was nothing to them. 51 million. If no one wants it, I'll take it, Man Who said. Since Brother Man likes it, I'll bid 53 million midgrade purple god iron essence. The desolate god college's grand venerable origin also began to bid, raising the price to 2 million in one go. A few million was nothing to them. 60 million midgrade purple god iron essence. A cold voice suddenly came out from private room 52. It was hard to tell if it was a male or a female. The voice had been specially modified to be ear-piercing. Long Shui's complexion turned ugly. She was unable to adapt to this sound. Yi Qinghan frowned as he looked at the man with abnormal pupils. He whispered, "Fellow Taoist, why did you have to change your voice like this? Can't we talk nicely?" In fact, let alone Long Shui, even Silo, Xian Yangsu, and the others felt that this sound was strange. It was like ice blades were tearing at their skin. It was unbearable. The other pupiled woman's body was hidden in a loose robe, only revealing her face. Yi Qinghan really couldn't understand what this woman was trying to hide. The man with different pupils also felt that his changed voice was a bit too frightening. He coughed dryly and changed his voice again, saying in a low voice, 60 million middle stage. 60 million middle grade was not a small amount. If converted to upper grade, it would be 60,000 upper grade. Using 60,000 upper grade to collect a useless material was really a waste. When God's organization saw that the voice came from Yi Qinghan's room, they deliberately raised the price to 63 million. The man with different pupils' gaze turned cold. He raised the price by another 2 million, raising the price to 65 million. Yi Qinghan looked at the woman with different pupils in shock. He discovered that this woman was the real tycoon. In order to obtain a Tier 13 material, she actually wasted so many middle-grade materials. This amount of middle-grade materials was enough for her to raise an army. The man behind Yao Zilong wanted to continue raising the price but was stopped by Yao Zilong. With such a high price, if the other party did not want it, God's organization would be the unlucky one. Finally, the woman with different pupils obtained the purple god iron essence and directly threw it to Yi Qinghan. She said in a muffled voice, "But you said that you would help me forge a sword of the same level. I will look for other materials. You keep this first." Yi Qinghan was so shocked that he could not close his mouth. This woman was too strange. If he were to calcine a Tier 13 material, it would take him at least half a year to melt it. He was not a professional blacksmith. How could he use half a year to melt this purple god iron essence without any rest? However, Yi Qinghan still accepted the godly iron essence. In order to cooperate with this woman to deal with God's organization, he did not hesitate to endure humiliation. The next few treasures were suitable for lower god worship and were all top quality. They were all bought by Yi Qinghan. However, because God's organization deliberately raised the price, he lost a lot of God crystals. However, Yi Qinghan did not care. If God's organization could cheat him of his God crystals, he could cheat them back twice as much. Sure enough, Yi Qinghan seized the opportunity. In order to buy a godly stab technique, God's organization and Yi Qinghan went through a fierce bidding war. The price was forcefully raised from 3 million to 100 million. The divine bird provoked God's organization again, but God's organization did not let go. After the price reached 100 million, Yi Qinghan decisively gave up. God's organization instantly spat out 10 times the amount of God crystals that they had cheated from Yi Qinghan. God's organization became more and more furious. Yi Qinghan and the divine bird had gone too far. If they did not bid, they would insult them. If they bid, they would give up. They were in a dilemma. Yi Qinghan, don't go too far. Yao Zilong angrily rebuked from afar. This is just the beginning. Since you are the ones who started this fight, I will decide when to end it. Yi Qinghan coldly said. Good. Today I will make you pay the price. Yao Zilong was furious. No one had ever dared to challenge God's organization's prestige. However, Yi Qinghan had repeatedly provoked them. He deserved to die. Same to you, Yi Qinghan coldly replied. The more Yi Qinghan and God's organization fought, the happier Yao Yen was. Without battle energy, how could the auction house make money? Yi Qinghan had cheated God's organization of 100 million God crystals. This amount of God crystals was enough to form a large army. God's organization wanted to cheat Yi Qinghan, but they did not expect to be cheated by Yi Qinghan. The next item to be auctioned is 1 million God crystals. I bid 10 million, Yao Zilong coldly said. I bid 20 million. Yi Qinghan was not to be outdone. 30 million. Yao Zilong continued to bid. He glared at Yi Qinghan, thinking that he would give up if Yi Qinghan continued to bid. I don't want it any more. Yi Qinghan unexpectedly gave up. Everyone. Yao Zilong's face turned purple. He gritted his teeth, unable to suppress his anger any longer. Yi Qinghan, on the other hand, was very calm. He hoped that Yao Zilong would make a move here today and join forces with the experts of the Western garrison to suppress God's organization's arrogance. Killing a few of the prefecture lords first would make things easier for the insane prefecture in the future. Think of a way to enrage them and make them attack. Yi Qinghan gave the divine bird a mission and decided to start a chaotic battle. It would be best if they could kill Yao Zilong. Even if they could not kill him, they would at least make him lose a layer of skin. Tisk, tsk. It's easy to make them angry, Xian Yanxue suddenly said, her eyes gleaming. Chapter 637. Yi Qinghan was quite surprised that Xie Nixu would take the initiative to scam God's organization. Could it be that he didn't like God's organization? The divine bird was immediately interested. Recently, it had wanted to scam Tian Ke Divine College and God's organization the most. However, it wasn't strong enough. How? The divine bird asked curiously. I have a divine stone here. If I auction it, God's organization will definitely be interested. Xie Nixu waved his hand and a fingernail-sized stone appeared. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed. He was very surprised. This stone was actually a primal chaos source. However, it was much smaller than the one in his hand. Those who knew how to use it would understand the value of this stone. The energy inside was almost inexhaustible. Primal chaos source. Yi Qinghan blurted out. Xie Nixu was even more surprised. After he obtained this divine stone, he had never told anyone. Even the older generation of his family didn't know about it. He had consulted many appraisers, but none of them could recognize the origin of this stone. Yi Qinghan actually recognized it at a glance. He couldn't believe it. Fellow Taoist, this divine stone is too valuable. If you auction it, you will be giving it to God's organization. Yi Qinghan kindly reminded him. I know the value of this stone. Unfortunately, I have used up all the energy inside. There is not much left, and it is attached to the surface. However, from the outside, it is still intact. As long as I tell the appraisers about the origin of this stone, tsk, God's organization will give me the vanquishing evil sword for free. Xie Nixu laughed evilly. Scum! Scum! The divine bird and the man with different pupils said in unison. Xie Nixu didn't care. He raised his eyebrows and said, Use it to the best of your ability. There is still a lot of energy in this stone. It can support at least 15 all-out attacks from a prefecture master. Anyway, I have no use for it. If I give it to God's organization, it might save their lives in a critical moment. If Yi Qinghan didn't have a primal chaos divine source of his own, he might have believed it as well. Who knew how much energy that primal chaos divine source contained? The fact that it could only sustain a few attacks from the manor head showed just how many times Xian Yanxue had used it. This. Anyway, you guys don't like them, and I don't like them either. What's the harm in tricking them once? Xian Yanxue was a little embarrassed by the disdainful gazes of these people, and hurriedly quibbled. At most, I'll sell them the method to use the divine essence's energy. Who knows, they might have a chance to obtain another divine essence in the future. Xian Yanxue smiled. Yi Qinghan thought about how God's organization had spent a lot of money to buy a piece of useless rock. They still had a method that they didn't have a chance to use. Suddenly, he grinned. The primal chaos divine source wasn't easy to find. Otherwise, all the appraisers in the world would have recognized it. Clearly, there weren't many mythical planes, and Yi Qinghan was probably the only one left. When they buy it, you can tell them that it's a piece of useless rock. They'll definitely explode with anger. When the time comes, they won't be able to resist the urge to make a move at the auction house. Then, they won't just offend you. They'll definitely offend the people of the Holy Dragon Divine Kingdom. We can take the opportunity to gang up on them. Even if we can't kill Yao Zilong, we can at least make him lose a few pieces of flesh, right? Xian Yanxue suggested. Yi Qinghan nodded and agreed to Xian Yanxue's suggestion. This matter had nothing to do with him, so he couldn't drag Xian Yanxue into it. Long Shui and the man with different pupils felt a chill run down their spines. They looked at Yi Qinghan and Xian Yanxue with vigilance. These two people were too despicable. They had cheated God's organization. If this rock had enough energy, it would be worth at least 1 million top-grade divine crystals. God's organization would definitely be furious if they wasted so many divine crystals to buy a piece of useless rock. Actually, I don't think it's necessary to expose them on the spot. Let them take it back and offer it to the elders of God's organization. When the elders find out, TSK, Yao Zilong and the others will be in trouble. We can kill them with a borrowed knife. It's also very good to let them kill each other. The divine bird was even more despicable. It looked at Yi Qinghan and Xian Yanxue and said proudly. Yi Qinghan and Xian Yanxue immediately nodded. Then, they looked at Long Shui and the man with different pupils at the same time. First, they had to make sure that these two wouldn't inform God's organization. At this moment, how could Long Shui possibly inform God's organization? Her mind was filled with the image of Xian Yanxue saving her. She was completely stunned. The man with different pupils snorted and said coldly, "I won't interfere in the matters between you two." Hearing this, Xian Yanxue immediately ran down and pulled Sima Sun into a private room. He took out the primal chaos divine source and said with a smile, "Mr. Sima, do you know what this is?" Sima Sun raised his eyebrows. He had helped Xian Yanxue identify it once before, but he didn't recognize it. Seeing Xian Yanxue take it out again, he said unhappily, "You want to make things difficult for me again? Last time, you cheated me of 100,000 top-grade divine crystals. I won't fall for it this time." Xian Yanxue immediately said seriously, "Do I look like that kind of person? This time, I came to find out the origin of this rock. I know that you are an appraiser and must be very curious about the origin of this thing, so I came here to tell you. You can't accuse me wrongly. Also, my method is too poor. I can't use a large amount of the energy inside, so I can only ask you to help me sell it. I'll give you 10% of the commission." "Oh? What is this? This old man has never seen this thing before." Sima Sun asked curiously. Although he knew that Xian Yanxue's words couldn't be trusted, his thirst for knowledge was very abnormal. "This is called the Primal Chaos Divine Source. It is a supreme treasure condensed from the purest divine energy in the world. It is inexhaustible. Just this small piece, if it explodes, can destroy 10 West garrison prefectures," Xian Yanxue said in a deep voice. This sentence was obviously true. Xian Yanxue wasn't lying to Sima Sun. What? This is the primal chaos divine source? No wonder this old man felt that this thing stored an endless amount of energy. How does this thing extract energy from it? Since you have learned how to use it, why are you selling it? Sima Sun was a little suspicious of Xian Yanxue's intentions. This fellow was famous in the mythological plane for being a scammer. Sigh. I have studied it for over 1,000 years, and even now I can only extract a trace of its energy. After all, my wisdom is limited. If I can sell it to a large organization, they might be able to research a better way to use it. I can't delay the development of the mythological plane just because of my own selfish desires, right? Xian Yanxue's serious expression made it impossible for anyone to doubt his intentions. His glorious and imposing figure instantly rose in Sima Sun's heart. He was as great as a god. I need to confirm that your method can really extract energy from it. Only then can I confirm that it is the primal chaos divine source. Only then can I price it. Sima Sun had unknowingly fallen into Xian Yanxue's trap. Xian Yanxue had changed some of his method. Originally, he could extract a large amount of energy from the primal chaos divine source, but now, he could only extract a trace of energy at a time. It was impossible to use up all the energy in a short period of time. He needed to study it slowly. By the time he figured out the method, the primal chaos divine source would have already changed hands. Sima Sun used Xian Yanxue's method to extract a trace of energy. He was immediately shocked. This pure divine power was indeed the pure energy from when the primal chaos divine source was first created. If there really was a large amount of primal chaos divine source, it would be worth more than 1,000,000 high-grade divine stones. Can I buy this divine stone through an internal transaction? Sima Sun was also greedy. He really wanted to buy this divine source for cultivation. Xian Yanxue rolled his eyes. This divine stone was specially used to trick God's organization. If he sold it to Sima Sun, wouldn't Sima Sun kill him? No. I want to auction it, and you have to promise not to tell anyone about me. Also, you are not sure if the primal chaos divine source is really inexhaustible. So, I suggest that when you auction it, it is best to say in advance that you cannot guarantee the amount of energy inside. So, when auctioning this divine source, there will be no starting price. Once someone buys it, the auction house will not be responsible, Xian Yanxue warned. In fact, he didn't need to remind Sima Sun. However, he still had some friendship with Sima Sun, and he really didn't want to lose his reputation. Sima Sun was somewhat suspicious of Xian Yanxue's intentions. He was even more suspicious of how much energy was left in the divine source. Are you here to trick me? Sima Sun asked doubtfully. When Xian Yanxue heard this, she immediately grabbed the divine source and said unhappily, "You old bastard, I was kind enough to tell you the origin and effects of this divine stone. You can't learn this from books, and you don't want to ruin your reputation because of a legendary divine stone. But you keep doubting me. I'm not selling it. I'd rather throw it away than sell it." Xian Yanxue loosened the reins and was about to leave. No, little friend Yanxue, don't be angry. This old man misunderstood. Leave the divine stone and I will auction it. Sima Sun suddenly felt embarrassed. He felt that he had misunderstood a good person. Xian Yanxue pretended to be unhappy, but in fact, he was very happy. He pretended to be angry and said, "At least you know what's good for you. Wrap this divine source up and don't use the energy inside, so it won't affect the price. Also, you can auction it tomorrow. Take advantage of this opportunity to advertise it. Have people prepare divine crystals. I hope you can sell it for a good price. Then, 10% commission will be enough to make up for the 100,000 high-grade divine crystals you lost to me last time." Sima Sun felt that it was a pity and wanted to keep the divine source for himself, but Xian Yanxue didn't agree. He could only shake his head and leave. Xianyenshui took a detour and returned to private room 52. He had a creepy smile on his face. Sure enough, Sima Sun walked to the auction stage and said calmly, "Today's auction is over. However, tomorrow, this old man will personally sell the first supreme treasure. Today, I will introduce the origin of this supreme treasure. I hope everyone will be prepared. Don't ruin this opportunity." Everyone was in an uproar. Sima Sun was the most powerful treasure appraiser in the divine nation. Normally, no matter how powerful a divine artifact was, he wouldn't auction it personally. The next item is the Primal Chaos Divine Source. This item was born when the Primal Chaos was first created. According to legends, the divine power used by the Primal Chaos gods was the Primal Chaos Divine Source, not the high-grade divine crystals of today. The Primal Chaos Divine Source is an existence that surpasses the top-grade divine crystals. The energy stored inside can be described as inexhaustible. Now, the auction house has received a commission from a fellow Taoist to auction a fingernail-sized divine source. As for the specific details, this old man will personally explain it tomorrow, Sima Sun said in a deep voice. There was a deathly silence in the auction house. Everyone was shocked by this news. In this mythological dimension where resources were scarce, there were probably only a few pieces of top-grade god crystals. Someone was actually willing to auction off the Primal Chaos Divinity Source, which surpassed top-grade god crystals. How extravagant! However, this old man has to say in advance that this is the first piece of Primal Chaos Divine Source to appear in the world. This old man has confirmed that it is indeed the Primal Chaos Divine Source. As for how much energy is left inside it and where its true value is, this old man is not sure. You can only gamble. If you gamble correctly, you will have the power to control the world. If you gamble wrongly, you will be responsible. However, this old man wanted to trade this divine stone internally, but was rejected by the person who entrusted it. That's all I have to say. You can consider it yourselves. The auction house will not be responsible for it. Chapter 638. The news of the Primal Chaos Divinity Source's appearance instantly alerted all the High God priests, and they all issued orders to obtain the Primal Chaos Divinity Source no matter what. Even the auction house was participating in the auction. With the West Garrison Prefecture's auction house participating in the auction, no one doubted the authenticity of the Primal Chaos Divinity Source, unless Sima Sun was mistaken. However, such a situation was negligible, and he would not use his reputation to deceive others. For an appraiser like Sima Sun, his reputation was more important than his life. How could he sacrifice his reputation for money? The auction became more and more mysterious, and more experts were alarmed. More and more prefecture masters arrived, and in the end, even the medium god priests were chased out, let alone the lower god priests. The auction came to a halt. Silo felt his scalp go numb. It had only been one night, and at least 500 prefecture masters had arrived. More than 30 high god priests had arrived, and some disciples of the high god priests had come out of seclusion and headed straight for the West Garrison Prefecture. Nothing will happen, right? Silo asked in a hoarse voice. What can happen? Just don't betray me. I've reminded Sima Sun that this is the first time the Primal Chaos Divinity Source is being auctioned, and I don't know how much energy it contains. It's like gambling on stones, and it's all about luck. What does it have to do with me? Xianyenshui raised her eyebrows, but she was also feeling uneasy. If the truth about the Primal Chaos Divinity Source was exposed, and Sima Sun couldn't withstand the pressure from the high god priests, he would betray her. That's right. Just say that we just got it and we didn't set the price. If they are willing to buy it, they will have to take responsibility, the divine bird agreed. Time flew by, and the representatives of the high god priests had all arrived. There were many strangers, and there were also quite a number of young people, both male and female. The top 20 on the ranking board were all present, except for the top 3. However, there were some unfamiliar young people, and it seemed that their battle prowess surpassed some of the people on the ranking board. It seemed that there were quite a number of geniuses like those with different pupils. Interesting, I didn't expect a piece of useless stone to attract so many experts. 23 representatives of the high gods, 3 divine kingdoms, 3 divine academies, and God's organization are all here. 72 overlords, TSK. I'm done here. This primal chaos divinity source is yours. No matter how many divinity crystals it is sold, you can take it, but you have to be my scapegoat, okay? Xianyanxue was frightened. This primal chaos divinity source was chaos divinity source. Xianyanxue's, said Xianyanxue's was divinity source. Yi divinity source, was Xie. Xie divinity's divinity source divinity source chaos divinity source divinity. I only sold it to help you. Otherwise I could use it a few more times. Xianyanxue said helplessly. Nonsense, you sold it to play with God's organization. Let's be honest. Promise me something, and I will take the blame for you. If not, just stay here and don't think about going anywhere. When the time comes, we will take the blame together, said Yi Qinghan indifferently. What is it? Tell me. Xianyanxue felt that she had fallen into a trap. Not only did she have to waste her primal chaos divinity source, but she also had to help Yi Qinghan. You should have heard. Help me fight an arena match. You are ranked 4th on the world ranking list. Yang Ru, who is ranked 5th, should be helping me as well. I believe that there is no one in God's organization who can threaten you. If you agree, I will agree. If you don't, then sit down, Yi Qinghan said calmly. Xianyanxue was speechless. Sure enough, Yi Qinghan was here for this. She could not help but say helplessly, You underestimate the world too much. Everyone knows about the world ranking list, but they don't know that the elite list is where the heroes gather. There are many youths in God's organization who are on par with me. If we fight, who knows who will win? In that case, I need your help even more. Yi Qinghan stared at Xianyanxue. This person was a member of the upper echelons. There were many things that Yi Qinghan could not investigate. The next morning, Sima Sun personally auctioned the primal chaos divinity source and took it out for all the gods to see. He also concealed how he used the energy inside. Although he could only use a trace of it, the pure primal chaos divinity source was very obvious. This old man will only say this once. This auction has nothing to do with the auction house. Someone sent it here. We are only in charge of selling it. If there is any problem after you buy it, don't come to the auction house. If you can't make a promise, then withdraw from the auction. This old man will not make things difficult for you. Sima Sun felt that there was something wrong with this stone, but he could not pinpoint where the problem was. He could only say the ugly words first. Once it was sold, it would have nothing to do with him. Many experts had brought along their appraisers. They were all top-tier appraisers, and they stared at the primal chaos divinity source in Sima Sun's hand. They could feel the energy Sima Sun was using from the primal chaos divinity source. They nodded and said, It does look like the legendary primal chaos divinity source. However, this item has never appeared before. Only the primal chaos divinity gods and primal chaos divinity source can use it. I am not sure of its value. With the words of these appraisers, everyone swore that once they bought it, they would not look for Sima Sun, no matter how much the divinity source was worth. The auction began, and the various experts began to display their domineering auras. The first bid was 300,000 high-grade divinity crystals. There was no need to set a base price. 500,000, 800,000. High grade, 1 million. In less than 10 rounds, the price had risen above 1 million. Most of the overlords were eliminated. Only the 3 divine kingdoms, the 3 god colleges, and some representatives of God's organization were still fighting over it. After 1 million, no one could be willful anymore. 1,000, 1,000, 1,000, until the price rose to 1,100,000. The 3 divine kingdoms were eliminated. Divine kingdoms were not like the God colleges, God's organization, and God's organization. They had huge empires that needed to be supported by a large treasury. If the treasury was empty, the divine kingdoms would be weakened and in danger. Soon, Skybreaker Xianyuan was eliminated, and the price rose to 1,150,000. Yi Qinghan's fingers trembled. He looked at Xianyan Shui, who was in a daze. He calmly reminded her, "The transaction is about to be completed. Have you made your choice? Are you going to help me fight in the arena or take the blame yourself?" "I'll help you fight in the arena." Xianyan Shui gritted her teeth. She was not alone. She had a huge family behind her. Making a fool of a huge organization in front of everyone, and with a God's organization, she would not have a good ending. The Wilderness God Academy was the wealthiest, and it was the only academy that could stand shoulder to shoulder with God's organization. Both sides had eliminated everyone else, and neither side was willing to give up. However, Yi Qinghan kindly reminded Western Garrison Liege Lord to stop bidding. As for whether or not the Wilderness God Academy would stop bidding, that was none of his business. Western Garrison Liege Lord personally sent a voice transmission to Long Shan, and Long Shan went to find someone from the Wilderness God College. In the end, the Wilderness God College gave up, and God's organization spent 1,200,000 high-grade divinity crystals to obtain the waste stone. Yi Qinghan and the others were laughing so hard that their stomachs were twitching. They took the high-grade divinity crystals and left the auction house. Staying behind at this time would be suicide. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.